Chapter 249. After a few rounds of probing, Chen Xian was now less than 5 meters away from Qin Chuan. This time, Chen Xian did not retreat immediately. Instead, he stood where he was. He looked warily at Qin Chuan, who was lying on the ground with his back facing him. He was extremely hesitant. 5 meters was a distance that could be covered in the blink of an eye for a mid-stage foundation establishment cultivator. Qin Chuan was completely defenseless. Chen Xian could not help but feel that he could defeat Qin Chuan with a single blow. However, Qin Chuan's previous performance had left a deep impression on Chen Xian. Whether it was the art of talisman arrays or the art of body tempering, Qin Chuan's performance was perfect. Chen Xian did not think that his sudden attack would cause any harm to Qin Chuan. Instead, he might fall into Qin Chuan's trap, allowing Qin Chuan to seize the opportunity and defeat him in one fell swoop. But could he just watch as Qin Chuan lay peacefully on the ground and rested? If that happened, he would become the laughing stock of the Black Heaven Sects-affiliated university. Patter. Chen Xian took another step forward. Qin Chuan still did not move. This made Chen Xian's heart beat faster. His face was covered in sweat, and his hands trembled uncontrollably. This was a psychological battle. Whoever could not hold back first would lose. It was supposed to be a calm and peaceful match. However, when they saw Chen Xian's pale face and the bean-sized beads of sweat rolling down his forehead, the crowd could not help but feel anxious. Everyone was curious as to what Chen Xian would do when faced with a defenseless Qin Chuan. Would he attack Qin Chuan, or would he just stand there and face off against Qin Chuan? With Chen Xian's mental endurance, could he really withstand it? Just as the crowd was wondering what Chen Xian would do, Qin Chuan's figure on the ground suddenly blurred. Then, the blurry figure disappeared. Chen Xian stood less than 3 meters away from Qin Chuan. He had been staring at Qin Chuan the entire time. When Qin Chuan's figure became blurry, Chen Xian was slightly stunned. Then, he had a bad feeling. Just as he was about to retreat, he slammed into an extremely hard wall. "Are you throwing yourself at me? Too bad you're a man. I don't like that." A cold and indifferent voice rang out beside Chen Xian's ear, causing his expression to change drastically. Just as he was about to flee, Qin Chuan, who had appeared behind him, suddenly made his move and grabbed his throat. "Admit defeat if you don't want me to crush your throat." In the audience, when they saw Qin Chuan's figure appear behind Chen Xian in a flash, all of them subconsciously held their breath. That ghostly speed shocked everyone present, including those who were watching the live broadcast through the crystal screens. Qin Chuan's strength was a combination of body tempering, talisman arrays, and speed. It was so perfect that no one could find fault with it. "He's really too strong." Chen Chongqing looked at Qin Chuan in the arena and said emotionally, "I'm very curious now. What exactly did Boss and Senior Zhu go through during the special training? Why do I feel that Boss is getting stronger and stronger?" Bluepool, who was standing at the side, nodded in agreement. Now that he thought about it, he had chosen the wrong opponent to compete with Qin Chuan. Zhao Feihong looked at Qin Chuan with envy in his eyes. He hoped that one day he could become as strong as Qin Chuan. Qin Chuan's strength comes from inside out. Lan Shuxin sighed and said, "Now, I'm a little impressed by Teacher Ning's eyesight. It's really not easy to find a genius like Qin Chuan in a sea of people." Han Ting let out a bitter laugh helplessly and said, "It's true. I feel that if Qin Chuan wasn't late, I'd probably be squeezed out by Qin Chuan and lose the right to be the official representative." Right now, Han Ting was considering if he should let Qin Chuan take part in the official competition as a substitute. After all, in terms of strength, he was much weaker than Qin Chuan. If he let Qin Chuan take part in the official competition, his chances of winning would definitely be higher. However, as the official representative's captain, Han Ting really wanted to prove himself in the arena. He had been looking forward to this day for too long. If he did nothing and gave the opportunity to Qin Chuan, he would feel indignant, even if he knew that Qinchuan's chances of winning were higher than his. Don't think too much. Lan Shuxin looked at Han Ting with a complicated gaze and said, just let nature take its course. Han Ting pursed his lips and nodded lightly. If the Black Moon Combat Academy really had to win, then he was willing to give in. Compared to Han Ting and Lan Shuxin's complicated feelings, Lu Zi, Baiyu, and Long Xiao were much more relaxed and happy. To them, watching Qin Chuan abuse others in the arena was a very satisfying thing. In the past, I always felt that losing to Qin Chuan in front of so many people was a very embarrassing thing. I even suffered for a long time because of this. Now, compared to these fellows from the Black Heaven Sect's affiliated university, my embarrassment is nothing. They're being abused by Qin Chuan in front of billions of people in the Federation. This is truly embarrassing. Long Xiao looked at the people from the Black Heaven Sect's affiliated university with a subtle expression. At this moment, only Chen Jing had not gone up on stage. However, it seemed that Chen Jing might not be able to affect Qin Chuan. In this battle, Qin Chuan would definitely defeat all four of them by himself and enter the finals. Qin Chuan should be the third person to defeat 4 students in this year's 6 Great Academies ranking competition. However, compared to the first 2, his performance is more outstanding. Lu Zi had never been stingy when it came to praising Qin Chuan. Whether it was Gao Zhenzhen or Wang Wenxue, both of them had defeated all 4 of them by themselves, but they had not displayed much strength. On the other hand, Qin Chuan had completely abused the 4 people from the Black Heaven Sect's affiliated university. Of course, Chen Jing had not been abused yet, but Lu Zi felt that this was something that would happen sooner or later. Baiyu was still as quiet as ever. She calmly looked at Qin Chuan in the arena. She did not feel excited by Qin Chuan's strong performance. In her eyes, Qin Chuan was the strongest, and it was natural for the strongest to defeat the weak. There was no reason for her to be surprised. Now, let's begin the 4th match of this competition. Black Moon Combat Academy's defender, Qin Chuan, versus Black Heaven Sect's challenger, Chen Jing. As the host's high-pitched voice fell, Chen Jing, who had a serious expression, slowly ascended the arena and stood in front of Qin Chuan. He had to go all out in this battle. Chapter 250. As the representative captain of the new students of the affiliated university of the Mysterious Sky Sect, Chen Jing was naturally the strongest. As the last person to appear on the stage, it could be said that he was highly anticipated by everyone. Those who supported the affiliated university of the Mysterious Sky Sect hoped that Chen Jing could make a comeback and defeat Qin Chuan. Then, he would lead the affiliated university of the Mysterious Sky Sect into the finals and have another fight with the First Academy of Star Dragon Academy. Those who wanted to see an exciting match hoped that Chen Jing's performance would be stronger and not let Qin Chuan win too easily. As for those who supported Qin Chuan, of course, they hoped to see Qin Chuan win 4 consecutive matches and successfully eliminate the affiliated university of the Mysterious Sky Sect. In short, this was a match that many people were looking forward to. In the VIP seats above the stadium, Qin Ju, who was wearing a dark green military uniform, was sitting on a soft and comfortable sofa. Through the crystal screen, he looked at the young man standing on the stage with a determined face. He couldn't help but feel a little absent-minded. That feeling was as if time had turned back and he had returned to the first time he met that person decades ago. They were both young, strong, and dazzling. Qin Haoshuan had been observing the changes in Qin Ju's expression. When he saw that Qin Ju was gratified by Qin Chuan's outstanding performance, he pursed his lips and asked Qin Ju, "Aunt, what do you think of Qin Chuan?" Qin Ju's eyes moved slightly when he heard this. He said, "He's not bad, but he's still a little lacking compared to our Qin family's Qilin." If it was in the past, Qin Haoshuan would definitely be very happy to hear Qin Ju praise him like this. But now, Qin Ju's praise sounded like perfunctory in Qin Haoshuan's ears. It was more to protect Qin Chuan from trouble. Then, what do you think of Qin Chuan compared to Chen Jing? Qin Haoshuan looked at Chen Jing's figure with a meaningful gaze and said to Qin Ju, I've dealt with Chen Jing before. This person has some ability and is not weak. The two of them are about the same. Qin Ju said indifferently, It's normal for either of them to win or lose. I feel that Qin Chuan has a higher chance of winning. Qin Haoshuan smiled gently and said, Our surname is Qin, and his surname is also Qin. This is fate. As he spoke, Qin Haoshuan suddenly stood up and walked towards the open-air viewing platform in front of him. He stood on the platform and looked at Qin Chuan's back. Suddenly, he shouted, Qin Chuan! Qin Chuan! An extremely loud and clear shout resounded in the sky above the stadium, almost completely suppressing the noise in the stadium. Everyone subconsciously raised their heads to look at the sky after hearing this voice. The tall and thin figure was extremely eye-catching under the gazes of tens of thousands of people. Almost at the instant they saw that person, everyone recognized him. He was Qin Haoshuan of the Qin clan, first on the Star Dragon list. When Qin Haoshuan appeared, the live broadcast director changed the camera lens for Qin Haoshuan almost instantaneously. Qin Haoshuan's tall and straight figure was displayed on the crystal screen so that everyone could clearly see the faint smile on his face. No one would have thought that Qin Haoshuan would actually be watching the competition. Moreover, he would appear right before the final battle between the Black Moon Combat Academy and the Black Sky Sex-affiliated university and shout out Qin Chuan's name. Could it be that Qin Haoshuan and Qin Chuan knew each other? Both of them had the surname Qin. Could it be that they were both from the Qin clan? Just when everyone was surprised and puzzled, Qin Chuan also turned around and looked at Qin Haoshuan, who was standing above. He had seen Qin Haoshuan's photo before and recognized him at a glance. Moreover, he also felt a familiar aura from Qin Haoshuan's body. It was the aura of Tsang Qing's dragon soul, the son of Tsang Hao. Qin Haoshuan looked down from above and looked at Qin Chuan indifferently. However, he had some doubts in his heart. He didn't know why, but he felt a sense of familiarity towards Qin Chuan. He even felt that Qin Chuan was somewhat close. This was really inconceivable, and it also increased the suspicion in his heart. I admire you very much. Qin Haoshuan looked at Qin Chuan with a subtle expression. I still lack a companion by my side. You're very suitable. As Qin Haoshuan's voice fell, the scene immediately went into an uproar. No one would have thought that Qin Haoshuan would appear to recruit Qin Chuan to be his companion. The so-called companion was both a companion and a servant. Not only did they have to be responsible for accompanying their master in cultivation, they also had to take care of their master's daily life. Many children of aristocratic families had companions by their side. Moreover, most of them were talented youths who were born commoners. With Qin Haoshuan's status, if he wanted to recruit a companion from a commoner genius, Qin Chuan was indeed a very good choice. However, Qin Haoshuan had put forward such a request to Qin Chuan under the gazes of everyone. Would Qin Chuan agree? If he agreed, then perhaps the master and servant pair would become a much-told story in the future. However, if he refused, then Qin Chuan would be equivalent to slapping the Qin clan's face. He would probably have a very difficult time in the future. Just when everyone was shocked by this matter, Qin Chuan laughed instead. His gaze was slightly playful as he looked at Qin Haoshuan and said indifferently, Unfortunately, I don't really admire you because you're too weak. As soon as Qin Chuan's words came out, the entire scene seemed to have been frozen and suddenly became quiet. Qin Chuan seemed to have not noticed the change in the atmosphere and continued, You better pray that I don't have the opportunity to be a substitute in the official competition. Otherwise, I'll smash your stinky face. After saying these words, Qin Chuan did not care about how big of a commotion his words would cause. He turned around to face the astonished Chen Jing and prepared to continue the competition. Qin Haoshuan was not angry after being slapped in the face by Qin Chuan. Instead, he laughed and did not say anything else. He turned around very naturally and returned to the private room. He calmly sat down on the sofa. Why did you suddenly appear at this time? Qin Ju was expressionless as he looked at Qin Haoshuan calmly. It seemed that what had just happened did not have any effect on him. Qin Haoshuan said indifferently, I was worried that he would lose to Chen Jing, so I purposely appeared to recruit him and put some pressure on Chen Jing. Unfortunately, he didn't seem to appreciate it. A commoner without any power or influence probably still doesn't realize how powerful our Qin clan is. Qin Ju took a deep look at Qin Haoshuan and asked, This is the purpose of you inviting me to watch the competition today, right? You're not targeting him, but me. Aunt, you're my aunt. I've always thought that you're the person who loves me the most in the world. When I was very young, my father and mother were busy with the family business and never had the time to take care of me. You've always been the one who grew up with me. Qin Haoshuan looked at Qin Ju with a deep gaze and said, But now, someone wants to snatch my dearest aunt away from me. What do you think I should do? Without waiting for Qin Ju to speak, Qin Haoshuan said resolutely, I'll destroy him. I'll personally destroy him, no matter who he is. Chapter 251. On the stage, Chen Jing looked at Qin Chuan as if he was looking at a dead man. It was extremely strange. You provoked Qin Haoshuan. That was unwise. To be honest, when Qin Haoshuan suddenly appeared and showed his goodwill to Qin Chuan, Chen Jing was shocked. If Qin Chuan really agreed to be Qin Haoshuan's companion, then he would definitely lose this battle. If he defeated Qin Chuan, then it would be equivalent to saying that Qin Haoshuan was blind and had misjudged him. He could not bear the consequences of that. Qin Haoshuan had the entire Qin family behind him, but Chen Jing did not have the entire Profound Sky sect behind him. However, Chen Jing never expected that Qin Chuan would directly reject this matter that countless people dreamed of. He even said that he would smash Qin Haoshuan's face. This was simply throwing Qin Haoshuan's face to the ground and ruthlessly trampling on him. Not only was he trampling on Qin Haoshuan, but he was also trampling on the Qin family. If the Qin family really wanted to make a move against Qin Chuan, then even the Black Moon Combat Academy might not be able to protect Qin Chuan. If I provoke him, then so be it. It's no big deal. Qin Chuan didn't take this matter to heart at all. Because of Song Hao's matter, he and Qin Haoshuan were already on opposite sides. Even if he didn't provoke Qin Haoshuan now, he would definitely provoke Qin Haoshuan in the future. Since Qin Haoshuan had taken the initiative to give him such an opportunity to declare war, he naturally had to make good use of it. Chen Jing did not know what Qin Chuan was thinking. He only thought that Qin Chuan was too confident, too proud, and did not want to be inferior to others. You should know that sometimes, lowering one's head does not mean that one is inferior to others. Chen Jing looked deeply at Qin Chuan. It was not shameful to lower one's head to a peerless genius like Qin Haoshuan. Qin Chuan frowned slightly. You talk too much nonsense. Toot toot toot. As the referee's whistle sounded, the final battle between the Black Moon Combat Academy and the affiliated University of the Profound Sky sect finally began. Almost at the same time, Qin Chuan and Chen Jing moved. Without any hesitation, Chen Jing unleashed all the power of a mid-stage foundation establishment cultivator and displayed his complete form. He seemed to have turned into a falling meteor, emitting a shocking pressure and scorching aura, burning everything around him. Facing Chen Jing, who was going all out, Qin Chuan was still calm and collected. He had no intention of releasing all his strength as well. He just quickly inscribed talisman arrays and used the Thunder Control Talisman array to resist Chen Jing's attack. Qin Chuan had long been familiar with the Thunder Manipulation Glyph array. In just a few breaths of time, he successfully inscribed the array. The spiritual energy in his body crazily poured into the thunder manipulation glyph array, and then suddenly turned into an azure dragon. It roared and emitted a terrifying aura that made one's heart palpitate. Lei Long roared as he charged towards Qin Jing. Dazzling lightning shot out from his mouth towards Qin Jing. Qin Jing exerted strength in his legs, and as the limestone tiles on the ground shattered, his figure leaped high into the air. He then turned and dived down, aiming straight for Qin Chuan, who was behind Lei Long. When Qin Chuan saw this, he immediately adjusted the position of the dragon's head and charged towards Qin Jing again. This time, Qin Jing did not dodge and directly charged into Lei Long's mouth. Qin Jing's figure disappeared, but a scarlet red appeared on Lei Long's body. This scarlet red was not obvious at first, but it gradually became more and more eye-catching. It was as if the scarlet red was burning Lei Long from the inside out. At this moment, Qin Chuan felt Lei Long's strength rapidly diminishing. His spiritual energy was also being consumed at a crazy rate. Boom! Following a violent roar, Lei Long's body suddenly swelled. A scarlet red penetrated Lei Long's body and suddenly appeared in front of Qin Chuan, violently slamming into Qin Chuan's body. The huge impact sent Qin Chuan straight to the edge of the stage. Qin Chuan roared angrily, and his flying body suddenly stopped. His feet dangerously stepped on the edge of the stage. Just a little bit more and he would have been eliminated. Phew! Qin Chuan exhaled, then raised his eyes to look at Qin Jing, who was standing in front of him. At this moment, Qin Jing was not in a good state. He had forcefully torn apart Lei Long and had used up a lot of energy. In addition to the burden on his body from his complete form, if he did not end the battle quickly, he might not be able to hold on much longer than Qin Chuan. Looking at Qin Chuan, who was almost completely unharmed, Qin Jing felt a little hopeless. He really wanted to know how Qin Chuan's body had been refined to be able to remain intact after such a strong impact. I must win! Qin Jing bellowed angrily and clenched his fists tightly. Spiritual energy surged from all over his body and quickly gathered on his fists, forming 2 red runes. Then, the runes turned into 2 blazing fireballs. Mysterious Heaven's secret skill, Scarlet Star. Following Qin Jing's roar, the 2 blazing fireballs jumped up and circled around Qin Jing's body. They slowly rotated like satellites surrounding and protecting Qin Jing. At this moment, Qin Jing launched another attack on Qin Chuan. At this moment, the 2 scarlet stars were like Qin Jing's 3rd and 4th arms. They moved nimbly around Qin Jing's body and attacked Qin Chuan at an extremely high frequency. The blazing spiritual energy fluctuations were not ordinary attack. If Qin Chuan was careless and was hit, he would definitely be injured. At this moment, Qin Chuan was surrounded by Qin Jing and the 2 scarlet stars. It was as if he was facing a pincer attack from 3 people at the same time. He was in a very dangerous situation. However, Qin Chuan was like a ghost that walked on the tip of a knife. He could always turn danger into safety and constantly deal with Qin Jing. Seeing that he couldn't take down Qin Chuan after such a long time, Qin Jing became a little irritated. After feigning an attack, he suddenly retreated and began to gather his spirit energy again. He was going to launch his final attack on Qin Chuan. This time, Qin Chuan did not continue to wait passively. Instead, he took the initiative to attack and chase after Qin Jing. However, Qin Jing ignored Qin Chuan's attack and allowed the 2 scarlet stars to hold Qin Chuan back. He was determined to use his ultimate move to end this battle. Finally, when the spiritual energy of the 2 scarlet stars was exhausted and could no longer restrain Qin Chuan, Qin Jing completed the last step. He successfully activated the rune and used his ultimate move. Forbidden skill of mysterious heaven, heavenly fire. The moment Qin Jing roared, the blue sky suddenly turned dark red. Endless spiritual energy gathered above the arena and turned into dozens of dark red meteors. They fell straight onto the arena. In an instant, the arena turned into a sea of fire. The blazing high temperature almost melted everything into ashes. The surging heat wave spread in all directions with the arena as the center, dyeing the entire stadium dark red. At this moment, everyone felt as if they were in a volcano and were being roasted by fire. However, no one cared about the heat. Everyone looked nervously at the arena, anxiously waiting for the final result of the battle. Chapter 252. The defensive talisman array around the arena was enough to withstand a full-powered attack from a gold core cultivator. However, it showed signs of collapsing under the burning of the flames. The referee, who was a gold core cultivator, hurriedly took action when he saw this. He channeled spiritual energy into the array disk to maintain the stability of the defensive talisman array. As the referee, Wang Qian was extremely regretful. If he had known that Chen Jing's attack would be so powerful, he would have stopped the match. At this moment, facing the raging sea of flames in front of him, he could only pray that Qin Chuan and Chen Jing were safe and sound. Otherwise, his position as a referee would probably come to an end. In the private room, Qin Haoshuan looked at the raging sea of flames in front of him, and the corners of his mouth rose slightly. He said, "Even if it's me, I'm afraid it won't be easy to stay in this sea of flames. Qin Chuan might die." When he heard Qin Haoshuan say that Qin Chuan might die, Qin Ju's heart couldn't help but tremble. He looked at the sea of flames in front of him and couldn't help but become a little nervous. If Aunt is worried, you can make a move to disperse the sea of flames. I think no one will blame Aunt. Qin Haoshuan saw Qin Ju's worry and deliberately suggested that Qin Ju make a move. However, he was blocking the possibility of Qin Ju making a move. Qin Ju looked at Qin Haoshuan with a complicated expression and said, "Do you know who he is?" "I know." Qin Haoshuan smiled and nodded. He said firmly, "He's an enemy." Below the arena, Chen Chongqing was about to go crazy. He never thought that Chen Jing would use a forbidden technique like the heavenly fire on the arena. With Chen Jing's current cultivation, forcefully executing the forbidden technique, heavenly flame, would definitely cause his meridians to break apart inch by inch. Even if he received the best treatment, he would need at least a month to recover. Moreover, it would leave behind severe repercussions. It was even to the extent that he might directly perish in this monstrous sea of flames that he created. Chen Jing was willing to give up his life for the sake of winning. On the other side, Chen Yu and the others were also extremely nervous and regretful. If they weren't too weak and couldn't defeat Qin Chuan, Chen Jing wouldn't have to risk his life to use such a terrifying forbidden technique like the heavenly fire. At this moment, unless there was a cultivator above the middle stage of the gold core stage, the sea of flames wouldn't stop in a short period of time. However, the strongest person present was only the judge, Wang Qian, who was in the early golden core stage. In the audience, Lu Zi could not wait any longer when she saw that the sea of fire showed no signs of stopping. She wanted to find someone to save Qin Chuan. "Lu Zi, calm down." Long Xiao stopped Lu Zi. "We can't interfere with the competition. Moreover, by the time you find them, the fire will have already been extinguished. Don't worry, the organizers won't let this fire continue to burn." Hearing Long Xiao's words, Lu Zi said anxiously, "But I'm worried about him." Long Xiao felt a little helpless when she heard this. She was also very worried about Qin Chuan. However, other than worrying, there was nothing they could do. "He's fine." Just as everyone was extremely worried about Qin Chuan, Bai Yu suddenly opened her mouth and calmly told everyone that Qin Chuan was fine. Hearing Bai Yu's words, Lu Zi froze for a moment and asked, "Are you really sure?" "I can feel that he's still alive." Bai Yu did not lie. She could clearly feel that there was a powerful bloodline aura surviving in the sea of fire. It was the aura that belonged to Qin Chuan. She was very familiar with it. Whoosh! A figure in a black suit with a gloomy expression suddenly appeared above the arena. He raised his hand and waved it. The raging fire on the arena was suddenly suppressed. With another wave of his hand, the flames suddenly exploded and turned into surging spirit energy that scattered in all directions. At this moment, after nearly half a minute of burning, the arena finally appeared before everyone's eyes once again. Compared to before, the arena was almost completely charred black and emitted a scorching aura. Among them, the most eye-catching figure was the figure of the scarlet-clad young man. The young man had no hair, no eyebrows, and even the clothes on his body had been burned clean by the raging fire. He could only hold a brick in his hand to cover his key parts to avoid exposing himself. After seeing the young man's appearance clearly, the scene that had been silent for a moment suddenly erupted into earth-shattering cheers. Qin Chuan! Qin Chuan! Qin Chuan! That powerful and domineering young man. He was still standing tall on the stage. In the sky, the official from the education department who came to put out the fire saw Qin Chuan standing on the arena and could not help but be stunned. He did not expect that Qin Chuan would be safe and sound under such intense heat. Only his skin looked a little red. This was really incredible. When he slowly landed on the arena, Qin Chuan smiled at him shyly and said, "Thank you for saving me, senior. My name is Lei Yu." Lei Yu glanced at Qin Chuan, took out a piece of clothing from the storage magic treasure, and threw it to Qin Chuan, saying, "Put it on first." Qin Chuan thanked him again, and then quickly put on the suit that did not fit him. He raised his hand to touch his head and grinned. Without hair, his appearance would probably be affected, right? Lei Yu was not in the mood to pay attention to Qin Chuan at this time. He slowly walked to the front of the charred Chen Jing and looked at the unconscious Chen Jing who was lying on the ground. His breath was so weak that he could die at any time. He sighed slightly and reached out to transfer a gentle spiritual power into Chen Jing's body, preserving Chen Jing's last trace of life. As for how far Chen Jing could go on the path of cultivation after surviving, it would depend on Chen Jing's luck, or how much Xian Tian sect was willing to pay for Chen Jing. "Sir." Wang Qian walked to Lei Yu's side with an awkward expression, not knowing what to say. "At that time, I did not expect this kid to use a forbidden technique like the heavenly fire. This is not your fault. Let the medical staff take him to treat his injuries." As he spoke, Lei Yu turned to look at Qin Chuan who was standing not too far away. He pursed his lips and said, "This battle, Qin Chuan has won." Qin Chuan had won. Qin Chuan had won again. Even though Chen Jing had used all of his firepower and had even used the forbidden technique, heavenly fire, he still could not stop Qin Chuan's advance. When Qin Chuan stood on the stage, he waved at the audience and flirtatiously blew kisses at them. Everyone realized one thing. After defeating the Divine Sword Academy, Qin Chuan had once again defeated the Black Heaven Sect's affiliated university with an unparalleled momentum. He had successfully led the Black Moon Combat Academy into the finals of the freshman competition. Qin Chuan was the well-deserved dark horse of this year's 6 Great Academies ranking competition. Seeing Qin Chuan standing on the stage and enjoying the cheers and worshipful gazes of the audience, the corners of Bai Yu's mouth rose slightly, revealing a very shallow smile. This young man, ever since the day they met, had never disappointed her. "Now, I'm starting to believe what you said. Maybe you're just like me, a monster." Chapter 253. Qin Chuan dominates the Black Heaven Sect's affiliated university and leads the Black Moon Combat Academy into the finals. A perfect, impeccable powerhouse of the new generation. His stage shouldn't be limited to the newcomer competition. The biggest dark horse of the 6 Great Academies ranking competition so far, Black Moon Combat Academy's Qin Chuan. After Qin Chuan defeated Chen Yu and led the Black Moon Combat Academy into the finals with absolute dominance, the various media outlets began to report on Qin Chuan. They praised Qinchuan's outstanding performance in the newcomer competition, but none of them mentioned the fact that Qin Haoshuan had tried to recruit Qinchuan but had been rejected and ridiculed. Although these media outlets were praising Qinchuan and reporting news about Qinchuan, they were only trying to ride on the hype and pander to the audience's liking. If the Qin family had taken the initiative to speak up, then they would have immediately withdrawn all reports about Qinchuan. Compared to making money, their lives were more important. Regarding Qinchuan's rejection of Qin Haoshuan's recruitment, regardless of whether it was the media or the ordinary audience, they only dared to talk about it in private. They absolutely did not dare to speak about it in public. No one was willing to provoke a colossus like the Qin family. At the same time, everyone was very curious about how the Qin family would react to this matter. The Black Moon Combat Academy alone might not be able to protect Qinchuan. While everyone was discussing Qinchuan's matter, the Black Moon Combat Academy's members were happily gathered together to celebrate the freshman representative's advancement into the finals. Chen Chongqing raised a glass of champagne and walked in front of Qinchuan. His face no longer had the usual playful smile, but was instead filled with seriousness. "Boss, I'll toast you with this glass." "Thank you." In response to Chen Chongqing's gratitude, Qinchuan smiled and lightly patted Chen Chongqing's shoulder. "Don't say these things. We're friends." Qinchuan did not feel that Chen Chongqing owed him anything. Whether it was the matter of Chen Chongqing stalling for time during the school selection, or the matter of Chen Chongqing intentionally getting injured in the first round, it all proved that Chen Chongqing truly treated him as his boss and was doing his best to help him. Since he was Chen Chongqing's boss, he naturally could not allow Chen Chongqing to be bullied by others. This was something he should do. Chen Chongqing grinned and said, "There's no need to say anything else. It's all in the champagne." After he finished speaking, Chen Chongqing tilted his head and drank the cup, without a single drop left. "Qinchuan, congratulations." At this time, Lu Zi also walked to Qinchuan's side. She smiled at Qinchuan and said, "I hope that you can maintain your current state in the finals. Continue to win and take first place for our Black Moon Combat Academy." Qinchuan chuckled and said to Lu Zi, "I'll definitely do my best." In the finals, they would be facing the First Academy of Star Dragon. Among the freshman representatives of the First Academy, there were two familiar faces, Yu Kai'er and Wang Wenxue. Qinchuan did not have much to say to Yu Kai'er. Their relationship was relatively simple and pure. As for Wang Wenxue, Qinchuan's feelings were somewhat complicated. They were childhood sweethearts, and although they had parted ways later on, the feelings they had for each other for more than 10 years were not something that could be cut off so easily. To be honest, he did not want to meet Wang Wenxue in the arena. However, there were some things that could not be done as he wished. "Today, you were right to refuse Qin Haoshuan, but your words were a little too sharp." Lu Zi looked at Qinchuan helplessly and said, "You embarrassed Qin Haoshuan in front of so many people. Qin Haoshuan might not let you go so easily. If he doesn't let me go, then I might not let him go either." Qinchuan felt somewhat helpless about this matter. If he didn't kill Qin Haoshuan, then he would die from the backlash of the oath when the time he and Song Hao had agreed to meet. Therefore, there would definitely be a battle between him and Qin Haoshuan. Sooner or later, he would offend the Qin clan. Since the outcome was already determined, there was no need for him to be overly cautious. Seeing Qinchuan's strong performance, Lu Zi did not say anything else. She was not afraid of the Qin family, but she was worried that Qinchuan would suffer losses. After all, the Qin family was one of the 4 great families, and Star Dragon City was the headquarters of the Qin family. If the Qin family wanted to make a move on Qinchuan, then Qinchuan would be in a very difficult situation. Seeing the worried expression on Lu Zi's face, Qinchuan smiled faintly and said, "You don't have to worry about me. I will take care of this matter." After chatting with Lu Zi for a while, Qinchuan walked to the balcony by himself. Looking at the brightly lit Star Dragon City, Qin Chuan could not help but think of what Long Shao had told him before. In Star Dragon City, it was impossible for a commoner to stand out. They had to rely on an aristocratic family or sect to have a chance of success. If they were unwilling, then they would be expelled from Star Dragon City. At that time, Long Shao had reminded him not to perform too well in the 6 Great Academies ranking competition, or else he would be targeted. At that time, he did not pay much attention to Long Zhao's words. Now, it seemed that Long Shao was right. Not only was he being targeted, but he was also being targeted by Qin Haoshuan. He did not know whether this matter was good or bad for him. In short, as long as the Qin family did not make a move on him, then he would act according to the original plan. Qin Chuan probably did not expect that the reason why Qin Haoshuan targeted him was not because he performed well and wanted to recruit him, but because Qin Ju paid too much attention to him. If Qin Chuan knew the truth, then he would probably break his head. Just as Qin Chuan was thinking about these things, Bai Yu's figure suddenly appeared on the balcony and stood beside Qin Chuan. She looked at Qin Chuan with a subtle expression and said, "I now believe what you said to me before." Qin Chuan was stunned when he heard this. He asked with some doubt, "I said so many things to you. Which one are you referring to?" "That night, in the restaurant, you told me that you were also a monster." Bai Yu pursed her lips. "I thought you were just coaxing me. I didn't expect it to be true." Qin Chuan looked at Bai Yu in astonishment. "You saw it? You know that I am very sensitive to blood. Although there was a big fire at that time, I sensed the changes in your body through the changes in your bloodline." Bai Yu lowered her head and said, "This is your secret, right? Will you kill me?" Qin Chuan laughed when he heard Bai Yu's words. Then, he reached out and gently rubbed Bai Yu's head. He said, "This is no longer my secret, but a secret between the two of us. So, you must keep this secret for me." "I will." Bai Yu raised her eyes and looked at Qin Chuan. Her gaze was unprecedentedly firm. Chapter 254. In the study of the Qin family. Qin Yiming sat on a chair and looked at Qin Haoshuan, who was standing in front of him. He said indifferently, "I've heard about what happened today. That's not your usual style. Tell me, why did you do that?" Qin Haoshuan pursed his lips and didn't intend to answer Qin Yiming's question. After a long silence he said, "This is between me and him. I don't want anyone else to interfere." Qin Yiming looked at Qin Haoshuan deeply and said, "That Qin Chuan is just a commoner, but you are a famous genius of our Qin family and even the entire Star Dragon Federation. What does he have that makes him worthy of your attention?" "It's none of your business." Qin Haoshuan's attitude was somewhat cold. He didn't want to talk with Qin Yiming. "I'm your father." Qin Yiming's face darkened. "Is this how you talk to me? Is this your upbringing? I've said it before. This is my business. You don't need to interfere. I'll take care of him myself." After saying this, Qin Haoshuan turned around and left. He didn't care how gloomy Qin Yiming's face was. After Qin Haoshuan left, Qin Yiming couldn't help but smash his fist on the long rosewood table. He found that his son was becoming more and more disobedient. Just when Qin Yiming was about to get angry, an old figure suddenly appeared behind him. He asked in a hoarse voice, "Master, do you want me to take care of that guy?" Qin Yiming was silent for a moment. He shook his head and sighed, "Forget it. Let him be." The old man hesitated for a moment and said, "But the strength that guy showed is really extraordinary. I'm afraid that young master will be defeated by him." Hearing the old man's words, Qin Yiming turned around and looked at the old man with sharp eyes. He asked, "In your eyes, is our young master so weak?" "I didn't mean that." The old man hurriedly lowered his head. "Young master is very talented. He's definitely not someone that Qin Chuan can compare to." Qin Yiming looked at the old man and his eyes gradually calmed down. He said indifferently, "Let him be. If Qin Chuan can really make him suffer a little, it'll be good for him. Yes, this old servant understands. The old man slowly retreated, his figure gradually disappearing into the darkness. The finals of the freshman competition of the 6 great academies would be held on May 27th at 9 a.m. Before that, Qin Chuan still had a day off. If it was in the past, Qin Chuan might have used this time to cultivate. However, this time, Qin Chuan was completely relaxed. He had no intention of seizing the time to cultivate. While everyone else was sweating profusely in their training rooms, he was already on the streets of Star Dragon City, strolling around and admiring the beautiful scenery of Star Dragon City. Although he had been in Star Dragon City for more than half a month, this was Qin Chuan's first time shopping outside. Everything he saw was very refreshing. As a moderately famous person, in order to prevent being recognized, Qin Chuan deliberately wore a mask and sunglasses to cover himself up. In these few days, Star Dragon City could be said to be more lively day by day. In the streets and alleys, in addition to tourists, there were all kinds of street artists performing art. At this time, Qin Chuan was standing behind a handsome young man, silently admiring the scenery that the young man was painting. The young man's painting was very beautiful. There was a blue sky, happy pedestrians, cute girls, and funny clowns. Everything looked so beautiful and warm. Looking at the young man's longing and yearning expression, Qin Chuan's expression couldn't help but be a little complicated. The life that these ordinary people yearned for was mostly ordinary happiness. However, who knew that this kind of ordinary happiness could sometimes only exist in longing? In this world, the strong preyed on the weak. Being an ordinary person wasn't a simple thing. The world of ordinary people is always so beautiful, but the world of the superior is dirty and full of intrigue. This is the true face of the world. The only thing that covers all of this is the selfishness and weakness of human nature. Qin Chuan turned his head and looked to his side. He was a little surprised. "Senior sister, why are you here?" Zhou Lin heard him and smiled. "I've been walking around here every day for a while. I didn't expect to see you here. I was planning to congratulate you in person after you won first place in the new student competition." While speaking, Zhou Lin took a step forward and said, "Let's walk together." Qin Chuan and Zhou Lin walked side by side on the street, admiring the scenery along the way. When they reached the bridge, the two stopped at the same time and looked at the flowing water under the bridge. "Senior sister, I covered myself so well. How did you recognize me?" Qin Chuan was a little curious. He was wearing a mask and sunglasses, but he was recognized at a glance. "Your aura." Zhou Lin glanced at Qin Chuan and said seriously, "Even if you turn into ashes, I think I can recognize you by your unique aura." Qin Chuan twitched his mouth. This wasn't a good analogy. "I saw the matter between you and Qin Haoshuan when I was watching the live broadcast. Your response was more decisive and domineering than I expected." Zhou Lin looked at Qin Chuan with a subtle expression and said, "To be honest, I liked your response. Moreover, I also wanted to smash Qin Haoshuan's face in the official competition. That person is too arrogant and self-righteous. I don't like him. As for Qin Haoshuan, even if Song Hao was not involved, he would still not like him. That was because it was impossible to become friends with someone like him. Even if their statuses were equal, they would only scheme against each other and make use of each other. Their relationship would only stop at exchanging benefits. It was impossible for them to become friends. Therefore, Qin Chuan hated those people from aristocratic families. The finals will be held tomorrow. After the finals, the official competition will begin on May 29th. Zhou Lin stretched and said to Qin Chuan, "What do you think I can lead Starry Sky Academy to in the official competition?" Qin Chuan smiled and said, "Of course, first place." "No, the best result is second place." Zhou Lin looked deeply at Qin Chuan and said, "I'm not Qin Haoshuan's opponent. He's very strong." Qin Chuan was stunned when he heard Zhou Lin's words. He didn't expect Zhou Lin to admit that she was not Qin Haoshuan's opponent. It's not shameful to admit that you're not as good as others. Although I know I'm not his opponent, I'll still do my best to fight. Zhou Lin reached out and patted Qin Chuan's shoulder and said, I can't lose this battle. Chapter 255. On the 27th of May, Star Dragon City, which had been quiet for a day, was once again bustling with noise and excitement. Today was the day of the freshman tournament. At 8 in the morning, the students of the Black Moon Combat Academy left for the Star Dragon Gymnasium to prepare for the tournament. When they entered the preparation area, they coincidentally bumped into the students of the First Academy. Looking at Wang Wenxue, who was standing in front of him, Qin Chuan smiled and said, Long time no see. Facing Qin Chuan's greeting, Wang Wenxue nodded and said with some emotion, It has indeed been a long time. Moreover, I never thought that we would meet again in such a way. When Wang Wenxue first learned that Qin Chuan would participate in the 6th Grade Academy's ranking tournament, she was a little surprised, but that was all. At that time, she didn't think that Qin Chuan had the strength to enter the finals. However, reality was the exact opposite of what she expected. Not only did Qin Chuan enter the finals, but the strength he displayed far exceeded her expectations. I hope that in the finals, you can show me your strongest side. Wang Wenxue looked deeply at Qin Chuan, then turned and walked away. It seemed that she didn't want to chat with Qin Chuan. The others followed behind Wang Wenxue, but Yu Kai'er stayed behind. She bared her fangs and brandished her claws at Qin Chuan, saying, Hey, don't tell me you're thinking of doing a string of 4 again? Qin Chuan smiled and said, What do you think? I don't want our reunion to end with you beating me to tears. Yu Kai'er rolled her eyes at Qin Chuan and said, All right, I'll talk to you later. I'll find you after the finals. Yu Kai'er was still a participant of the First Academy, so it wasn't appropriate for her to chat too much with Qin Chuan. However, after the finals, she wouldn't have to worry about this anymore. After everyone from the First Star Dragon Academy left, Chen Chongqing winked at Qin Chuan and said, Boss, your first love is too cold to you. And that Yu Kai'er, she's pretty good to you. Maybe she'll go easy on you. If that's the case, our chances of winning will be higher. Qin Chuan rolled his eyes at Chen Chongqing and said, You go first in today's first battle. Chen Chongqing was stunned for a moment and asked in astonishment, Boss, aren't you going to kill them directly? No. Qin Chuan walked forward without looking back. I've already done everything. What use do I have for you? Chen Chongqing wanted to say something but was stopped by Blue Pool. Qin Chuan is giving us a chance to fight. Blue Pool said to Chen Chongqing very seriously, Didn't we participate in the freshman competition to see how capable we are? Perhaps the arena of the finals will allow us to clearly recognize our own shortcomings. You talk too much. You're right. Chen Chongqing curled his lips. What's the big deal about entering the arena? But then again, Blue Pool was becoming more and more obedient to Boss. It was threatening his position as the #1 underling. The enormous stadium was filled to the brim from the moment the doors opened. Everyone was excitedly discussing the finals with their friends and family. Some of them were loyal fans of Star Dragon's First Academy, while others were casual fans who had been convinced by Qin Chuan's performance. However, no matter who their fans were, they were all looking forward to the clash between Star Dragon's First Academy and the Black Moon Combat Academy. They wanted to see who would be the strongest freshman representative between Qin Chuan and Wang Wenxue. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I am the host for the freshman tournament finals of the 6th Grade Academies. You can call me Lo. There's less than half an hour until the finals begin. I'm sure that everyone is looking forward to the finals. Now, let's see if the freshman representatives from the First Academy of Star Dragon and the Black Moon Combat Academy have anything to say before the finals. As Ali's voice fell, the figures of the freshmen from the First Star Dragon Academy and the Black Moon Combat Academy appeared on the crystal screen above the stadium. However, Qin Chuan and Wang Wenxue weren't there. There were only 6 of them. The image changed and Chen Chongqing's figure appeared in front of the camera. He was sitting on a sofa with a glass of champagne in his hand. He smiled and said, "Let us congratulate the Black Moon Combat Academy for obtaining first place in this year's freshman competition." "What? The finals haven't started yet?" "I'm sorry, but the way I see it, the finals have already ended. There's no doubt that Qin Chuan will defeat all of his opponents and lead us to victory." The image changed again. This time, it was Tsing Shulan who appeared in front of the camera. She sneered and mocked Chen Chongqing. "Other than Qin Chuan, your Black Moon Combat Academy is nothing." "No, you're wrong. We don't even have a girlfriend yet. We're all still virgins." Chen Chongqing laughed as he unscrupulously made dirty joke. As Chen Chongqing's voice fell, the audience burst into laughter. They liked contestants like Chen Chongqing. Although his performance on stage wasn't outstanding, he could always bring joy to everyone. Yu Kai blushed and looked at the camera with a shy expression. She said, "I hope that student Qin Chuan will go easy on him. It would be even better if he doesn't go up on stage." If Qin Chuan doesn't go up on stage, then there's only one possibility. The first Academy of Star Dragon Academy's performance is too terrible. We only need a few people to defeat you. Bluepool confidently said to the camera, "In this finals, if the Black Moon Combat Academy can't obtain the final victory, I'll run one round around Star Dragon City naked. That will affect the city's appearance. I advise you to wear a pair of underwear when the time comes. Red is more eye-catching." Su Wenliang held a wine glass in his hand and looked at the camera with a playful expression. The first Academy of Star Dragon Academy has always been number 1. It was so in the past, and it will definitely be in the future. There will never be an exception. I hope that the first Academy of Star Dragon Academy can perform more strongly and give me a chance to go up on stage. Zhao Feihong helplessly spread out his hands. "I'm only at Qi Refinement Stage Level 13. It'll be embarrassing for me to win first place in the freshman competition. Speaking of which, if the first Academy of Star Dragon Academy loses, will it change its name to Star Dragon Academy? Sounds pretty good." In the preparation area, Qin Chuan looked at the image on the crystal screen and his lips twitched. He asked Chen Chongqing speechlessly, "When did you guys record this? How come I didn't know about it?" "Yesterday. You went shopping, so it's normal that you don't know." Chen Chongqing smiled and asked Qin Chuan, "Boss, do you think our words are domineering enough?" Qin Chuan rolled his eyes and said, "This is definitely the most boring pre-competition trash talk I've ever seen." Chapter 256. Alright, next, let's welcome the 2 commentators of this year's newbie competition to the commentary booth. After the trash talk segment ended, the host, Alu, once again announced loudly. This time, he was going to introduce the 2 veteran commentators, Wawa and Methreya. Wawa and Methreya were both powerful cultivators in the middle stage of Gold Core. They might not be particularly strong in terms of battle prowess, but in terms of insight and knowledge, they could be said to be unparalleled in the same realm. In the past few decades of the 6 great academies' ranking competitions, the 2 of them would always appear on the commentator's seat, explaining in detail some of the exciting details in the process of the competition to the audience who could not understand the competition. They would use their passionate voices to drive the audience's emotions and enthusiastically cheer for the exciting competition. It was worth mentioning that only the finals of the newbie competition had commentators, but in the official competition, the commentators had to participate in the entire competition. At this moment, Wawa and Methreya had already ascended the commentary booth and passionately greeted the audience. "Hello everyone, I'm the commentator for today's newbie competition, Wawa." "Hello everyone, I'm Methreya." The slightly plump Wa looked at his old partner sitting beside him and asked with a smile, "Methreya, between the First Academy of Star Dragon and the Black Moon Combat Academy, who do you think will win? When Wawa asked this question to Maitreya, the audience also looked at him curiously. They wanted to see how this commentator with rich experience would answer this question. All along, the First Academy of Star Dragon has been the champion of the 6 Great Academies ranking competitions. Whether it's the newbie competition or the official competition, their performance is always strong enough to make their opponents despair. As for the Black Moon Combat Academy, their performance in the 6 Great Academies ranking competitions was mediocre. According to past results, I feel that the First Academy of Star Dragon has a higher chance of winning. However, this year is a little different. A peerless genius has appeared in the Black Moon Combat Academy, and everyone knows that his name is Qin Chuan. He is a young man who is adept at creating miracles. I feel that with him here, the Black Moon Combat Academy might be able to topple the Star Dragon Academy's #1 academy and step onto the altar. As a commentator, he had to be fair and impartial, explaining from an objective point of view. Although Maitreya's words would offend some loyal fans of Star Dragon's First Academy, he had also won over a large number of viewers. Maitreya was right. With Qin Chuan's strong performance in the past few matches, he might not necessarily lose against Star Dragon's First Academy. My point of view isn't much different from yours, but there's a slight difference. From my personal point of view, I hope that Qin Chuan can lead the Black Moon Combat Academy to victory in the freshman competition. At this moment, Wawa suddenly voiced a rather bold wish. He actually wanted to see the Black Moon Combat Academy win. Oh? Why do you say that? Maitreya looked at Wawa in surprise. Because in the past, the First Academy of Star Dragon has always been #1. No matter if it's the freshman competition or the official competition, no one has been able to shake the First Academy of Star Dragon's position. This way, the 6 Great Academies ranking competition will inevitably lose a lot of suspense, and the competition will slowly become dull and boring. Therefore, I hope that a new variable will appear today. I hope to see the rise of a new powerful academy, and not continue to see the First Academy of Star Dragon outshine everyone else. Wawa said very seriously, I think that this kind of competition will be even more exciting. It's also the competition that the audience wants to see the most. Wawa's words could be said to have struck a chord in everyone's heart. The reason why the First Academy of Star Dragon was #1 was because they had never lost in the 6 Great Academies ranking competition. They had always been #1 and were the champions. If this had happened once or twice, the audience might have felt that the First Academy of Star Dragon was indeed very powerful. However, if this had happened dozens or even hundreds of times, the audience would inevitably feel numb and bored. This was because they could already guess the final result without watching the competition. Since this was the case, was there still a need to watch the competition? Therefore, the audience longed for a new variable to appear, and Qin Chuan's appearance just so happened to satisfy the audience's needs. It was also because of this that Qin Chuan was able to gain so many fans and obtain so much support. In other words, the audience did not support Qin Chuan, but rather the person who could stand up and change the current situation. I feel that what you said is very reasonable. Maitreya chuckled and said, Then today, let's see if the First Academy of Star Dragon will continue their undefeated legend, or if Qin Chuan will break the norm and lead the Black Moon Combat Academy to new heights. As Maitreya's voice fell, a total of 8 participants from the First Academy of Star Dragon and the Black Moon Combat Academy slowly walked towards the arena in the middle of the stadium. They stood below the arena, facing each other, calmly facing the audience's enthusiastic cheers. This was the courtesy that they deserve. Now, I announce that the 6 Great Academies ranking competition's freshman competition has officially begun. Participants, please return to your positions and prepare for the competition. As the host's voice fell, A representative from the First Academy of Star Dragon and the Black Moon Combat Academy each stepped out and walked towards the arena. The first representative from the First Academy of Star Dragon was Tsing Shulan, while the Black Moon Combat Academy's representative was Chen Chongqing. When they saw that Chen Chongqing was the first to enter the arena, the audience couldn't help but be stunned. They had thought that Qin Chuan would still be the first to enter the arena, but they had never thought that it would be Chen Chongqing in the finals. As we can see, the Black Moon Combat Academy's first to enter the arena is Chen Chongqing and not Qin Chuan. I feel that this is understandable because the Black Moon Combat Academy's opponent is the First Academy of Star Dragon. It is reasonable for Chen Chongqing to enter the arena first to test the opponent's strength. Yes, I feel that Qin Chuan should be the last to enter the arena as their trump card. When Wawa and Methreya saw that Chen Chongqing was the first to enter the arena, they immediately voiced their opinions. Regarding this, the audience agreed. After all, this was the finals, so it was normal for Qin Chuan to be more cautious. Tsing Shulan's cultivation is at the Middle Foundation Establishment realm, while Chen Chongqing is at the Early Foundation Establishment realm. In terms of cultivation, Chen Chongqing is slightly weaker, but he is still a rank 2 array master. If he has the opportunity to inscribe an array, then he might not beat Tsing Shulan's opponent. That would require Tsing Shulan to be willing to give him the opportunity. Tsing Shulan has always been good at attacking. If Chen Chongqing is unable to pull away in time and is stuck by Tsing Shulan, then he might lose the initiative and be beaten until he is defeated. The exciting competition is about to begin. Let us cheer for the participants. Chapter 257. On the arena, Chen Chongqing and Tsing Shulan stood opposite each other. Looking at Tsing Shulan's proud face, Chen Chongqing chuckled and said, "If I remember correctly, your name wasn't on the list of freshman representatives announced at the beginning of the First Academy of Star Dragon. Qin Yang was supposed to be the one standing in front." Tsing Shulan's expression changed when she heard Chen Chongqing mention Qin Yang. She said coldly, "What are you trying to say? Qin Yang is a collateral disciple of the Qin clan. Logically speaking, he shouldn't have been replaced by you, but you succeeded. So I'm curious, what benefits did you give to the Qin clan?" Chen Chongqing sized up Tsing Shulan with a playful look and said, "Your looks and figure are just average." Tsing Shulan was furious when she heard Chen Chongqing's words. "If you dare to talk nonsense again, I'll tear your mouth apart." "Why, are you angry from embarrassment?" Chen Chongqing grinned and said, "It seems that you used some underhanded means to get the chance to participate in this freshman competition. TSK, you're really shameless." Toot toot toot. Tsing Shulan's angry roar accompanied the whistle. "I'll definitely kill you." Tsing Shulan roared and rushed toward Chen Chongqing. She wanted to tear Chen Chongqing's stinky mouth apart. Chen Chongqing couldn't help but sneer when he saw Tsing Shulan rushing toward him. He loved to face such brainless opponents. Golden Cage Battle Formation, activate. Tsing Shulan's expression changed when she heard Chen Chongqing's angry roar. She didn't see Chen Chongqing inscribing a talisman array. Just when Tsing Shulan subconsciously stopped and was about to retreat, Chen Chongqing suddenly retreated and put some distance between them. He started to inscribe a talisman array with his talisman pen. When she saw this scene, how could Tsing Shulan not know that she had been played by Chen Chongqing? She was so angry that her face turned pale on the spot, and she almost spat out a mouthful of blood. Chen Chongqing was really hateful. As the saying goes, nothing is too deceitful in war. Chen Chongqing used a non-existent golden cage battle formation to disrupt Tsing Shulan's attacking rhythm. It can be said to be quite brilliant. If Tsing Shulan was not deceived and directly charged at Chen Chongqing, perhaps victory would already be in her grasp. You're right. Unfortunately, Tsing Shulan fell into his trap and gave Chen Chongqing enough time to inscribe a talisman array. This way, the scale of victory might tilt toward Chen Chongqing. While the commentator was explaining some of the exciting details of the match to the audience, Chen Chongqing had already successfully inscribed a talisman array. It was a level 1 trapping talisman array, a talisman array specifically used to harass and restrict opponent. Chen Chongqing had used this talisman array in the previous match. However, just when Tsing Shulan went around the gold trap talisman array, the gold trap talisman array suddenly flickered and actually appeared in front of Tsing Shulan in an extremely bizarre manner. The Shulan array says of. It's not just aces. It's the combination of this ants. The gold trap glyph matrix was a trap, and the one-leaf glyph matrix was an illusory matrix. The combination of the two made Tsing Shulan make the wrong judgment and fall into the gold trap glyph matrix. This is a huge gamble. If Tsing Shulan chooses to go around from the right instead of the left, Chen Chongqing's plan will fail. No, I think it was premeditated. As far as I know, Tsing Shulan likes to attack from the left. She rarely attacks from the right. This can be seen in Tsing Shulan's previous battle videos. Doesn't that mean Chen Chongqing has studied Tsing Shulan thoroughly? I think that should be the case. Hearing the words of the two commentators, the audience couldn't help but show a hint of surprise on their faces. It turned out that Tsing Shulan fell into Chen Chongqing's trap not because of a moment of carelessness, but because she was thoroughly studied. In that case, didn't Chen Chongqing have a higher chance of winning this match? Just when everyone was surprised, Tsing Shulan had been temporarily trapped by the gold trap talisman array. She had no time to interrupt the battle array that Chen Chongqing was inscribing at this time. It could be said that she was extremely annoyed. Just when she used her spiritual power to disperse the binding force of the gold trap talisman array and regained her freedom, Chen Chongqing had already finished inscribing the battle array and was waiting for Tsing Shulan to walk into the trap. Looking at Tsing Shulan, who was charging again and had begun to release her full form, Chen Chongqing sneered and shouted, "The game is over. Heavenly Lock Battle Formation, activate." As Chen Chongqing's voice fell, 4 golden chains suddenly appeared in the clouds in the sky. They wrapped around Tsing Shulan like golden snakes. Tsing Shulan had no chance to dodge at all. Her limbs were entangled by the 4 chains, and she was suspended in the air. Tsing Shulan's expression changed when her limbs were bound. She struggled hard, but the chains became even tighter. She felt like her limbs were about to be broken. Admit defeat. Chen Chongqing slowly walked in front of Tsing Shulan and calmly looked at her. He did not have the pride or joy of a victor. From his point of view, defeating Tsing Shulan was nothing to be proud of. Tsing Shulan didn't seem to hear Chen Chongqing's words as she continued to struggle. The shackles on her became tighter and tighter, to the point where they were about to pierce into her body. Tsing Shulan couldn't help but cry out in pain. "Kill me if you have the ability!" Hearing Tsing Shulan's shameless words, Chen Chongqing shrugged helplessly and looked at the referee who was standing outside the stage. The referee saw this and looked at Wang Wenxue from the First Academy. As the captain, Wang Wenxue had the authority to represent Tsing Shulan in admitting defeat. Everyone present could see that Chen Chongqing could kill Tsing Shulan at any time if he wanted to. Tsing Shulan had already lost, so there was no point in forcing herself to continue. Admit defeat. Wang Wenxue said to the referee, "We have lost this match." Hearing Wang Wenxue's words, the referee immediately blew his whistle and announced, "The winner of the first match is Black Moon Combat Academy's Chen Chongqing." As soon as the referee finished speaking, the crowd immediately cheered. In this match, although Chen Chongqing's realm was weaker, he had successfully played Tsing Shulan in the palm of his hand through his understanding of her and the psychological game. Tsing Shulan had no chance to use her advantage in close combat and thus lost the match. It could be said that Chen Chongqing had won in terms of intelligence, while Tsing Shulan had lost in terms of temperament. The exciting first match filled the audience with anticipation for the following matches. Perhaps today, they would be able to witness the ascension of a new king. Chapter 258. Why did you admit defeat on my behalf? What right do you have to admit defeat on my behalf? I haven't lost yet. Tsing Shulan rushed down the stage and ran to Wang Wenxue. She stared at Wang Wenxue ferociously, as if she couldn't wait to kill Wang Wenxue. Some of the audience couldn't help but boo after hearing Tsing Shulan's roar. A loss was a loss, and there was no point in arguing. Instead, it would make people look down on Tsing Shulan. Tsing Shulan was smearing the reputation of the First Academy of Star Dragon. Facing Tsing Shulan's roar, Su Wenliang frowned slightly and said, "You've already lost. The opponent can kill you at any time." "Then let him kill me." Tsing Shulan turned and glared at Su Wenliang. "Does he dare to kill me? I'm the eldest daughter of the Xing family." He slap. A crisp slap interrupted Tsing Shulan's roar. She raised her hand and gently touched her rapidly swollen cheek. She looked at Wang Wenxue in disbelief. "If you don't shut up, I'll continue to hit you." Wang Wenxue looked at Tsing Shulan indifferently and said coldly, "The Xing family has a daughter like you. You're a disgrace." "Wang Wenxue, I'm going to kill you." Tsing Shulan went crazy. It was the first time in her life that she was slapped in front of thousands of people. Moreover, the person who slapped her was a commoner that she looked down on the most. Slap. Wang Wenxue was a woman of her words. When Tsing Shulan roared, she did not hesitate to slap Tsing Shulan's face again. This time, she used her spiritual power and knocked Tsing Shulan unconscious on the spot. Tsing Shulan fell to the ground with a plop. Looking at Tsing Shulan, who fell to the ground, Wang Wenxue said to Yuka, "Get the medical staff to carry her down." Su Wenliang looked at the unconscious Tsing Shulan and shook his head helplessly. A loss was a loss. It was fine that she couldn't afford to lose, but she actually threw a tantrum at her teammate. She was simply brainless. This was the 6th Great Academy's ranking competition, not the Xing family. Su Wenliang didn't feel that Wang Wenxue had gone too far by knocking Tsing Shulan unconscious. If Tsing Shulan continued to cause trouble, who knew how big of a joke it would be? After instructing Yuka, Wang Wenxue turned to look at Su Wenliang and said, "Let's go." Su Wenliang nodded and walked towards the ring. With Tsing Shulan as an example, he would not let his guard down. On the stage, Chen Chongqing looked at Su Wenliang and chuckled. "Is there no one else in Star Dragon's First Academy? Why did they choose such a trash to participate in the competition? Wasn't Qin Yang pretty good in the past?" Su Wenliang stood still and looked at Chen Chongqing with a deep gaze. He pursed his lips and remained silent. Chen Chongqing saw that Su Wenliang was ignoring him, so he asked again, "Are the disciples of the aristocratic families in Star Dragon's First Academy as arrogant as that guy? I think these people are spoiled. They should be hung up and beaten up to make them realize the evilness of society." The second round of the freshman competition, Black Moon Combat Academy's Chen Chongqing vs. Star Dragon's First Academy's Su Wenliang. Toot toot toot. Following the referee's whistle, Su Wenliang immediately rushed towards Chen Chongqing. He released his complete form without any hesitation. He didn't even try to test the waters and went all out from the start. Su Wenliang's realm was higher than Chen Chongqing's, and now that he was going all out, Chen Chongqing naturally didn't dare to be careless. He also released his full strength without any hesitation, but he didn't use it to attack. Instead, he chose to retreat and distance himself from Su Wenliang. If he couldn't distance himself from Su Wenliang and inscribe a glyph array, Chen Chongqing would have no chance of winning. Everyone can see that Su Wenliang is different from Tsing Shulan. He wasn't affected by Chen Chongqing's words at all. In order to avoid any unexpected problems, he released his complete form at the start of the match and used all his strength. It's obvious that he wants to end this battle quickly. It's a pity that Chen Chongqing isn't cooperating. He still wants to contend with Su Wenliang and stall for time to inscribe a glyph array. However, will Su Wenliang really give him the chance? As the commentator's voice fell, Su Wenliang gradually closed in on Chen Chongqing. With the support of the swift body rune, Su Wenliang was as fast as lightning. In the blink of an eye, he was only 10 meters away from Chen Chongqing. In the next moment, he suddenly closed in on Chen Chongqing. At this time, Chen Chongqing had only just finished inscribing the trapping gold glyph array. Trapping gold glyph array activate. The trapping gold glyph array activated, and Chen Chongqing and Su Wenliang fell into the trap at the same time. They were deep in a golden quagmire, and at this time, the distance between the two was less than a meter. Su Wenliang didn't hesitate at all. He raised his hand and threw a heavy punch at Chen Chongqing. The crazy fluctuation of spiritual power emitted a shocking power. Facing Su Wenliang's punch, Chen Chongqing didn't have any intention of blocking it. He actually allowed Su Wenliang's punch to hit his chest. Accompanied by the sound of bones breaking, Chen Chongqing spat out a mouthful of blood. His entire body immediately rushed out of the quagmire under the impact of the huge impact. With a plop, he smashed into the ring. At this time, Su Wenliang, who had succeeded in one hit, didn't show any joy on his face. Instead, his face became gloomy. At the same time, Chen Chongqing got up from the ground with some difficulty and grinned at Su Wenliang. He actually took out a glyph pen and started to inscribe a glyph array. Oh my god, Chen Chongqing is really a crazy contestant. He actually didn't dodge and used Su Wenliang's attack to break free of the trapping gold glyph array's restraint. He exchanged a heavy injury for precious time to inscribe a glyph array. This is indeed an incomparably crazy contestant. He made an incomparably crazy decision. If he can defeat his opponent again in this battle, his name will definitely be recorded in the history of the 6 Great Academies ranking competition. This is a crazy contestant who relies on his intelligence to crush his opponent. At this time, the audience couldn't help but exclaim when they heard the commentator's words. They originally thought that Chen Chongqing had no chance of winning after being heavily injured by Su Wenliang's punch. However, it seemed that the more dangerous person was actually Su Wenliang. Now, Chen Chongqing and Su Wenliang were racing against time to see if Chen Chongqing would be the first to successfully inscribe a glyph array, or if Su Wenliang would be the first to break free from the restraint of the trapping gold glyph array and continue to attack Chen Chongqing. Once the first to make a move, the scales of victory would definitely tilt towards him. For a moment, almost everyone held their breath. They looked at the two people on the arena with excitement in their eyes, looking forward to their exciting performances. Chapter 259. Just as everyone was looking at Chen Chongqing and Su Wenliang expectantly, waiting for a victor to emerge between the two, Chen Chongqing, who was inscribing the talisman formation, suddenly stopped inscribing the talisman formation. He casually dispersed the half-inscribed talisman formation and laid on the ground with his face facing the sky. He panted and shouted, "I lost!" Hearing Chen Chongqing admit defeat, the audience was stunned. They didn't understand why Chen Chongqing would suddenly give up inscribing the talisman formation and admit defeat while Su Wenliang was still bound by the gold trap talisman formation. Could it be that his injuries were too severe and he couldn't inscribe the talisman formation completely? Just as the audience was puzzled, commentator Wawa suddenly sighed and said, "What a pity!" Although the gold trap talisman formation bound Su Wenliang's legs and made him unable to move for a short period of time, it didn't bind Su Wenliang's hands. If I'm not wrong, Su Wenliang's palms are clasped together. He should have successfully condensed the gray blade in his palms. Chen Chongqing must have noticed this and admitted defeat. "You're right. Putting the palms together is the signature condensing action of the gray blade. Moreover, we can also see that Su Wenliang didn't struggle from the beginning to the end. The gray blade has an extremely long attack range, and Chen Chongqing and Su Wenliang are only 20 meters apart. With the gray blade's speed, it can kill Chen Chongqing in the blink of an eye. If Su Wenliang used other methods to intimidate Chen Chongqing might not admit defeat. However, the gray blade, its lethality is too strong. In Chen Chongqing's current state, if he were to be penetrated by the gray blade, his life would be in great danger. A wise man submits to circumstances. Although Chen Chongqing lost, I think he must have left an extremely deep impression on the audience. After hearing the commentator's explanation, some of the confused audience subconsciously looked at Su Wenliang's hands. Sure enough, Su Wenliang put his palms together at this time, and the gap between his palms was aimed at Chen Chongqing. Su Wenliang had once activated the Gray Blade when facing the affiliated University of the Mysterious Sky Sect, and defeated the enemy with one move. It was almost exactly the same as the current action. At this time, Su Wenliang condensed the Gray Blade but did not release it. Obviously, he was giving Chen Chongqing a chance to take the initiative to admit defeat. Chen Chongqing was also very tactful, and did not act shamelessly like Tsing Shulan. Su Wenliang slowly walked in front of Chen Chongqing and said in a low voice, "Thanks for letting me win." Chen Chongqing raised his hand and wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. He smiled at Su Wenliang and said, "I know you can condense the Gray Blade, but you clearly took 3 seconds to condense the Gray Blade last time. This time, you condensed it almost instantly. It seems that I was fooled. You didn't use your full strength last time. Last time, I was only fighting in my normal form, but this time, I'm releasing my complete form. My spiritual energy is much stronger and more active than last time, so the speed of condensing the Gray Blade will naturally be faster. So that's how it is. I've learned a lot." Chen Chongqing felt helpless. He had originally wanted to use a simple rank 1 glyph array to harass Su Wenliang and not give Su Wenliang a chance to attack him from a distance. However, he had underestimated Su Wenliang. In other words, he had collected too little information, and his understanding of Su Wenliang was too one-sided. At this moment, medical personnel had already stepped onto the stage and lifted Chen Chongqing onto a stretcher. Chen Chongqing said to the medical personnel, "These are just some minor injuries. I won't die for the time being, so there's no need for immediate treatment. Please inject me with a healing medicine. I want to watch the match from below the stage. I don't want to miss any exciting details." The medical personnel naturally had no objections to this. As an early Foundation establishment cultivator, these injuries would affect Chen Chongqing's strength. However, since he had already lost, there was no need for him to continue fighting. It was no big deal for him to delay the treatment for a while. In this way, the medical personnel brought Chen Chongqing to the Black Moon Combat Academy. After injecting Chen Chongqing with a healing medicine, they left. Lying on the stretcher, Chen Chongqing looked at Qin Chuan and grinned. "Boss, I didn't embarrass you, did I?" Qin Chuan smiled and nodded. "You exceeded my expectations. Your performance was really not bad." Qin Chuan indeed didn't expect Chen Chongqing to be able to almost defeat Su Wenliang after defeating Tsing Shulan. Although he lost in the end, Chen Chongqing had already proven that his strength wasn't weaker than anyone else's. At least in terms of brains, Chen Chongqing was definitely strong. "It's my turn next." Blue Pool was slightly agitated. Chen Chongqing had defeated an opponent. If he couldn't defeat Su Wenliang, wouldn't he be defeated by Chen Chongqing? Qin Chuan reached out and patted Blue Pool's shoulder gently. "Don't feel pressured. Just do your best. I'm still here." Blue Pool nodded. Taking a deep breath, he walked towards the arena. Blue Pool will be going up next from the Black Moon Combat Academy. I don't know much about him because this contestant has only gone up once before, and he lost very quickly. Indeed. From Bluepool's performance back then, we can tell that although he has some capabilities, he's clearly lacking in battle experience and can be easily restrained. After Chen Chongqing's spectacular performance, I wonder if this Bluepool will be able to surprise us again. In the arena, Su Wenliang looked at Bluepool, who was slowly walking over. His expression was one of relief. If Qin Chuan went up now, he would definitely lose. However, against Bluepool, he was confident that he could win another match. This way, he would definitely have to face Qin Chuan in the next match. Even if he couldn't get anything out of Qin Chuan, he could at least exhaust some of Qin Chuan's strength and lay a good foundation for Yu Ke and Wang Wenshu. Bluepool from the Black Moon Combat Academy. Please enlighten me. Bluepool looked at Su Wenliang with a serious expression. He knew that many people were looking at him at this moment. His family, his friends, everyone was looking forward to his performance. Therefore, he had to show his elegance. Even if he lost, he had to lose beautifully. Star Dragon's First Academy, Su Wenliang. Please enlighten me. Su Wenliang pursed his lips and replied solemnly. New Student Competition's third match. Star Dragon's First Academy's Su Wenliang vs. Black Moon Combat Academy's Bluepool. The match begins now. Toot toot toot. As the whistle sounded, Su Wenliang once again released his complete form and jumped into the air. Like a meteorite falling from the sky, he brazenly charged towards Bluepool. At this moment, Bluepool didn't dodge. Instead, he used a talisman pen and started to inscribe a talisman array on the spot. Seeing this, many people felt anxious for Bluepool. How could Su Wenliang give him a chance to succeed in inscribing a talisman array without putting some distance between them? Chapter 260. At the commentator's seat, Wawa and Maitreya immediately cried out in surprise after seeing Su Wenliang's action. Talisman formation masters are best at using talisman formations to change the terrain to restrict the opponent's movements, thereby fighting for a chance to inscribe the next talisman formation. In the previous battles, Chen Chongqing had always done this. Su Wenliang, on the other hand, learned from the shock during his battle with Su Wenliang. This time, he actually launched an attack directly from the sky, not giving Bluepool a chance to change the terrain to restrict him at all. Yes, given Su Wenliang's current realm, although he can't fly in the air, changing directions in the air isn't a problem. Moreover, when Su Wenliang releases his complete form, his speed has already reached the limit of what can be achieved at his current realm. Bluepool has no chance of dodging his attack at all. Bluepool had no choice but to choose to inscribe the talisman formation on the spot. It's because he has no space to dodge at all. Su Wenliang's attack is simply too fast. Oh my god, what is this? Just as the commentator was analyzing the situation for the audience, a new change had already taken place in the arena. Just as Su Wenliang descended from the sky and was about to get close to Bluepool, a large amount of spirit chi suddenly gathered around Bluepool, turning into layers of water membranes and wrapping Bluepool within, turning him into an azure water ball. At the same time, Su Wenliang's attack finally arrived. It fiercely struck the water ball, causing a series of astonishing ripples to erupt. However, it didn't cause any harm to Bluepool, who was wrapped in the water ball. Everything happened in the span of 2 breaths. Even though the commentators were experts of the Aurus Core stage, their speed of speech was not fast enough to match the movements of the contestants. This is a level 1 water-repelling talisman formation, a talisman formation used to breathe underwater. Its defensive capabilities are very limited, but did everyone see clearly how many water-repelling talisman formations Bluepool activated in that instant? I recalled there were at least 30 of them. Who would have thought that a simple level 1 water-repelling talisman formation would have such a powerful defensive capability after being stacked up? At least, as commentators, they didn't. The commentators were stunned by Bluepool's performance, and so were the audience. No one had expected that Blue Pool would be able to fend off Su Wenliang's attack with such a simple level 1 water-repelling talisman array at such a critical moment. Right now, Su Wenliang was continuously attacking the water ball. However, every time he broke a layer of the water-repelling talisman array, Blue Pool would activate another layer or even multiple layers of the water-repelling talisman array with his spiritual force. As they were evenly matched, Su Wenliang couldn't break through Blue Pool's defense at all. Below the stage, Wang Wenxue, whose talent Rune was also of the water attribute, couldn't help but be moved when she saw this scene. The water-repelling rune array could be activated in an instant for her, and it was so fast that she could even skip the inscription process. However, she had never thought that the water-repelling rune array would have such a powerful defensive ability when stacked up. With Su Wenliang's current offensive, there was simply no way for him to break through the defense of these dozens of water-repelling talisman arrays. On the stage, seeing that several of his attacks had ended in failure, Su Wenliang had no choice but to stop temporarily. Instead, he started to condense the Grey Blade. He wanted to use the Grey Blade's powerful penetrative power to pierce through the water ball and severely injure Blue Pool. In the water ball, Blue Pool saw Su Wenliang putting his palms together and knew what Su Wenliang was going to do. However, other than watching, there seemed to be nothing he could do. It's a pity. Although using the stacking of water-repelling talisman arrays for defense is a very creative and genius idea, Blue Pool is in the water ball right now. Other than relying on the existing talisman arrays to continuously activate the water-repelling talisman arrays, there's nothing else he can do. On the contrary, it gives Su Wenliang enough time to condense the Grey Blade. With the Grey Blade's powerful penetrative power, the water-repelling talisman array might not be able to withstand it. You're right. Although Blue Pool might lose, this idea of his has given us endless surprises. I think, after this battle, the water-repelling talisman array might change from a very unpopular first-class talisman array to a defensive talisman array with super strong defensive capabilities. Just as the commentators were conversing, Su Wenliang had successfully condensed the Grey Blade. Without any hesitation, he shot the Grey Blade towards Blue Pool, who was in the water ball. Just then, the layers of water-repelling talisman arrays that enveloped Blue Pool suddenly dispersed, turning into a majestic wave of water spiritual force that surrounded Su Wenliang. Su Wenliang didn't expect this to happen. Unable to react in time, he could only retreat hastily. However, right now the water spiritual force enveloped him from all directions. There was no space for him to dodge at all. "This is..." the commentator exclaimed. Blue Pool actually took the initiative to disperse the protection of the water-repelling talisman arrays at this critical moment. He wants to surround Su Wenliang with water spiritual force. But if he does this, Blue Pool will be completely exposed to the Grey Blade. He wants to imitate Chen Chongqing and exchange injury for injury. Before the commentator's voice died away, the Grey Blade penetrated the encirclement of the water spiritual force at an extremely fast speed and pierced through Blue Pool's chest. The penetrative spiritual force continued to wreak havoc in Blue Pool's organs, causing his face to turn as pale as a sheet of paper. He opened his mouth and spat out 2 mouthfuls of blood. At the same time, the water spiritual force surrounding Su Wenliang suddenly became extremely irritable and exploded. It was as if a battleship's cannon had bombarded the surface of the sea, erupting with astonishing waves. The moment the water spiritual force exploded, Blue Pool was also affected. His body was seriously injured once again. He flew backwards and crashed heavily onto the ground. He couldn't help but cry out in agony. On the other side, Su Wenliang, who was in the center of the water spiritual force explosion, relied on the mountain defense talisman to successfully avoid the disaster. Under the protection of the mountain defense talisman, Su Wenliang panted heavily. His face was extremely pale, and the fluorescent light on his body was also extremely dim, as if it could be extinguished at any time. Finally, Su Wenliang couldn't hold on any longer and removed his complete form. The moment he returned to his normal state, Su Wenliang's body was on the verge of collapse. He staggered and fell to the ground with a plop. He had actually fainted from exhaustion. Looking at Blue Pool and Su Wenliang, who had fainted on the arena at almost the same time, everyone was a little stunned. Was this considered a lose-lose situation? At this moment, the referee, Wang Qian, had already appeared on the arena. He started to quickly check on Su Wenliang and Blue Pool's physical conditions. After confirming that their lives weren't in danger, he blew the whistle and announced loudly to everyone, "In this battle, Blue Pool and Su Wenliang have fainted at the same time and have lost their ability to fight. Therefore, I declare that this battle has ended in a draw. Both parties, please send out new contestants for the next round." Chapter 261. It was a draw. No one had expected that this battle, which had lasted less than a minute, would end in a draw. However, even though the battle had been very short, Blue Pool's extraordinarily creative performance had received enthusiastic cheers from the audience. Similarly, Su Wenliang's performance wasn't bad either. Although he didn't know many moves, he had displayed Grey Blade and the mountain controlling rune to the extreme. This made the audience realize once again how powerful the secret techniques of the first Academy of Star Dragon Academy were. This is truly a battle with no losers. Both sides' performances were too brilliant. Indeed, whether it's Blue Pool or Su Wenliang, both of them have reached the limit of what they could do. It's a pity that Su Wenliang had already unleashed his complete form in his battle with Chen Chongqing, which consumed a large amount of spiritual energy. Otherwise, he might not have lost this battle. You're right, but this is reality. Not everything will go according to your wishes. I think that even if Su Wenliang was in his peak condition, it would be difficult for him to continue defending the arena after this battle. After all, the next person from the Black Moon Combat Academy to go up on stage is Qinchuan. When the commentator mentioned Qinchuan's name, the audience erupted into cheers. Many of the audience members, who had been impressed by Qinchuan's performance, were cheering Qinchuan's name. They were looking forward to Qinchuan going up on stage and showing them a brilliant battle. The unconscious Blue Pool and Su Wenliang had already been sent to receive treatment by the medical staff. The arena was also being refurbished. Next up, the Black Moon Combat Academy's person would be Qinchuan. After all, Zhao Feihong was only at the peak of Qi refining stage level 13, so there wasn't much meaning in him going up on stage. On the other side, the Black Moon Combat Academy's person was Yu Kai. Wang Wenxue didn't appear early because of Qinchuan's appearance, and was still the finale. On the brand new arena, Qinchuan and Yu Kai stood opposite each other. Looking at the beautiful and elegant Yu Kai, Qinchuan smiled and said, "To be honest, I really can't bring myself to be ruthless when facing you. It's not my style to destroy flowers." Hearing this, Yu Kai looked at Qinchuan with a subtle look and asked, "The news said that you and Wenxue were first lovers. Is that true?" "Hey, now is not the time to gossip." Qinchuan didn't know whether to laugh or cry. This woman's focus was a bit too strange. At this moment, the referee, Wang Qian, could not bear to watch any longer. The previous few people had wanted to finish each other off in one move. Their attacks were as ruthless as they could be. These two people, on the other hand, were chatting and laughing. They did not look like they were here for a competition, but more like they were here for a date. The fourth match of the new student competition is between Qinchuan from the Black Moon Combat Academy and Yu Kai from the Star Dragon Academy. Begin. Toot toot toot. The moment the whistle sounded, Qinchuan suddenly felt a cool breeze blow past him. At the same time, Yu Kai, who was standing opposite of Qinchuan, strangely disappeared. In the next moment, she appeared behind Qinchuan. This move is called wind incarnation. Yu Kai-er's bell-like laughter rang in Qinchuan's ears. Immediately after, a pair of tender little hands grabbed Qinchuan's ears. Qinchuan quickly turned around and grabbed Yu Kai-er's arm. With a gentle pull, he pulled Yu Kai-er out of the ring. Then, he threw Yu Kai-er out of the ring with great force. At the same time, Qinchuan's figure continuously flashed in the arena. Every time he landed in front of Yu Kai-er, he controlled her movements and sent her step by step to the edge of the arena. Yu Kai-er, who was in the air, was anxious. She wanted to break free from Qinchuan's restraint, but no matter how hard she struggled, she could not break free from Qinchuan's seal on her spiritual energy. She was like an ordinary person without any power, allowing Qinchuan to do whatever he wanted. What is this? The commentator was dumbfounded by what was happening in the arena. Qinchuan actually sealed Yu Kai-er's spiritual energy. How did he do it? Yu Kai-er's wind incarnation is like teleportation. She can move in an instant. In the face of Yu Kai-er's sudden attack, Qinchuan not only dodged her attack, but also sealed her spiritual energy with a backhand. He is simply too strong. If the commentator had not explained that Yu Kai-er's spiritual energy was sealed by Qinchuan, the audience would have thought that Yu Kai-er was going easy on Qinchuan. Without the support of spiritual energy, Yu Kai-er's body was not strong enough. She was no different from an ordinary person. Qinchuan could do whatever he wanted to her. In this way, the audience watched Yu Kai-er being sent to the edge of the arena by Qinchuan step by step, and then gently thrown out of the arena. It could be said that Qinchuan's series of actions were quite gentle and gentlemanly. However, Yu Kai-er was angry and not happy at all. She originally wanted to have a good fight with Qinchuan. Who would have thought that the result would be like this? The moment Yu Kai-er landed on the ground, the spiritual energy seal in her body disappeared. She looked at Qinchuan curiously and asked, "How did you seal my spiritual energy?" Previously, Yu Kai-er did not notice Qinchuan's actions. This seal was simply inexplicable. This move is actually very simple. Qinchuan chuckled and stretched out his finger to point at Yu Kai-er. A subtle force of thunder flowed out of Yu Kai-er's body and entered Qinchuan's body through Qinchuan's finger. Seeing this, Yu Kai-er asked in astonishment, "When did you inject this force of thunder into my body? Why didn't I notice it at all?" This is an exquisite control method of the thunder manipulation charm array. If you were a little wary of me, it would not have been so effective. Qinchuan smiled and patted Yu Kai-er's head gently. If it were not for the fact that Yu Kai-er had no intention to fight him and was not on guard against him, it would be impossible for him to seal the spiritual energy in Yu Kai-er's body with the force of the thunder manipulation charm array without anyone noticing. Hearing Qinchuan's explanation, Yu Kai-er understood. The thunder manipulation charm array was a kind of charm array that used the force of thunder to make thousands of changes. Qinchuan could use the thunder manipulation charm array to turn the force of thunder into a cage. It was normal for him to seal her spiritual energy. Unfortunately, she was not on guard at that time and did not notice the infiltration of the force of thunder. Otherwise, she would have forced the force of thunder out of her body and not given it a chance to seal her spiritual energy. Unfortunately, it was too late to say anything now. Yu Kai-er could only look at Qinchuan with resentment. This guy made her lose so quickly. It was simply too shameful. Chapter 262. Just like that, Qinchuan defeated Yu Kai-er in an extremely strange manner and won another match for the Black Moon Combat Academy. I announce that the winner of this match is Qinchuan of the Black Moon Combat Academy. Following the referee's announcement, the audience burst into cheers. Although this match wasn't particularly exciting, Qinchuan still displayed his demeanor as a powerhouse. Not only did he win easily, but he also acted like a gentleman and won the favor of many female audience members. Of course, there were those who felt that Qinchuan's performance was good, but there were also those who felt that Qinchuan's performance was bad, and some even spoke ill of him. Almost all of these people were Qin Haoshuan's loyal fans. They believed that Qin Chuan had refused Qin Haoshuan's invitation and had even said such outrageous words to him. This was simply unforgivable. They believed that such a person didn't deserve to win. However, such spectators were in the minority. The majority of the audience didn't have any bias and simply watched the match and enjoyed it. Therefore, those who cursed Qin Chuan were drowned out by the waves of cheers and didn't cause much of a stir. Finally, it's the moment that everyone has been waiting for. Next up, the Black Moon Combat Academy's Qin Chuan will fight against Star Dragon's First Academy's Wang Wenshu. I can't help but mention the rumors about these two. The commentators were also very gossipy. They had done detailed research on the matters between Qin Chuan and Wang Wenshu. Qin Chuan and Wang Wenshu are both 19 years old this year and are from the state capital of Qing. It's worth mentioning that Zhou Lin from the Starry Sky Academy is also from the state capital of Qing. Moreover, the three of them graduated from the state capital's second high school. When I heard this news, I was very surprised. I never thought that a high school in a small city like the state capital of Qing could nurture three astonishing geniuses. It's a pity that the state capital's second high school has already closed down. Otherwise, it would be quite glorious right now. Between Qin Chuan and Wang Wenshu, who do you think has a higher chance of winning? I personally support Wang Wenshu. Although Qin Chuan is strong, I think Wang Wenshu is stronger. I'm the exact opposite of you. I support Qin Chuan more, because this dark horse finally made it to the finals. I think he won't return empty-handed. Then let's wait and see. Let's see if the dark horse will win and the new king will ascend to the throne, or if the First Academy of Star Dragon will continue its undefeated legend. Just as the commentators were warming up the audience, Wang Wenshu had already stepped onto the stage and stood in front of Qin Chuan. Looking at the handsome and sunny young man standing in front of her, Wang Wenshu could not help but feel a little dazed. She could no longer remember the last time she faced Qin Chuan like this. Qin Chuan was also sighing with emotion. Wang Wenshu, who was once his good friend and now his opponent, was still the same as before. She was beautiful and moving, but at the same time, she made him feel like a stranger. She was no longer as close and familiar as before. I haven't seen you for more than a year. You seem to have grown taller. Wang Wenshu pursed her lips slightly. I don't know how to face you because of what happened in the past. I didn't even know what to say when I saw you previously. Wang Wenshu knew that she was in the wrong in the past. However, once something was done, it was not something that could be brushed aside with just an apology or an apology. Whenever she faced Qin Chuan, Wang Wenshu would always involuntarily recall the past, and Wang Wenshu hated her past self. You've changed too. I remember that you didn't like to smile in the past, and now you don't like to smile even more. You're a little cold. Qin Chuan looked at Wang Wenshu faintly and said, the First Academy of Star Dragon Academy might not be better than the second high school of the state capital of Qing. Wang Wenshu knew what Qin Chuan was referring to, and she also knew that Qin Chuan was right. When she was in the second high school of the state capital of Qing, she had already realized the huge gap between the status of commoners and aristocratic families. That was why she made some wrong choices because of the lack of cultivation resources. Now that she was in the First Academy of Star Dragon Academy, the gap between commoners and aristocratic families not only narrowed, but also became more obvious. She was only in her first year of university, and in just a year of studying in the First Academy of Star Dragon Academy, she had already met countless disciples from aristocratic families like Lu Cheng. Because of these encounters, her personality had changed. She became more and more indifferent and disliked interacting with others. These experiences, in her opinion, were trials that she had to go through. Only by going through all of this could she welcome a complete transformation and a new life. I won't make the same mistake twice. Wang Wenxue looked deeply at Qin Chuan and said, "Also, thank you for your reminder." Qin Chuan gently nodded and didn't say anything else. How Wang Wenxue wanted to go forward in the future was her own business, and he had no right to interfere. Seeing Wang Wenxue's attitude, he was very gratified because the young girl from before hadn't been dispirited. The finals of the freshman competition, Qin Chuan of the Black Moon Combat Academy against Wang Wenxue of the First Academy of Star Dragon Academy. Begin. Toot toot toot. When the whistle sounded, Qin Chuan and Wang Wenxue didn't immediately make a move like the others. Instead, they stood opposite each other. Wang Wenxue looked deeply at Qin Chuan and said, "This battle is very important to me. I can't lose, so I will give it my all." Similarly, many people are waiting for me to bring home the final victory, so I will give it my all as well. Qin Chuan smiled. "Let me see how strong the former goddess of the Second Academy has become." As he spoke, an azure glyph array appeared in front of Qin Chuan. It was the lightning manipulation glyph array that Qin Chuan was most proficient in. The moment the lightning manipulation glyph array appeared, Wang Wenxue let out a low roar. The spiritual energy in her body surged, and a tyrannical aura completely erupted. Her eyes and hair turned aqua blue, as bright and beautiful as the surface of a clear lake. However, it also emitted a pressure that made one's heart palpitate. Water Dragon Dance. A large amount of spiritual energy condensed around Wang Wenxue and turned into water spiritual energy. It then condensed into a water dragon that roared in the air and brazenly charged towards Qin Chuan. At the same time, a bolt of lightning descended from the sky and struck the lightning dragon's body. It instantly turned into countless tiny lightning bolts that surged into the water dragon's body, causing the water dragon's charging body to stop. It began to struggle and roll in the air. Its momentum was extremely shocking. Walala! The water dragon suddenly expanded and exploded in the air, turning into water droplets that sprinkled down. Wang Wenxue's figure suddenly flickered. She used the water droplets as a mark and constantly changed her position. In an instant, she arrived behind Qin Chuan. With a light wave of her hand, the surrounding water droplets condensed into a long sword in her hand and directly pierced towards Qin Chuan's back. Chapter 263. Wang Wenxue's sword was almost unobstructed and smoothly pierced Qin Chuan's body. After succeeding, Wang Wenxue did not show any joy. Instead, she frowned. Sizzle! Qin Chuan's body, which was stabbed by Wang Wenxue, suddenly turned into a thunderbolt. It suddenly exploded in the air and turned into a cage, enveloping Wang Wenxue inside. When Wang Wenxue saw this, she almost instantly shifted her position, swapping places with the raindrops outside the cage and successfully leaving the cage. However, things were far from over. While Wang Wenxue was shifting, the power of thunder was also expanding its range of influence through the curtain of rain, chasing after Wang Wenxue. A battle of pursuit between lightning and water had thus begun. Wonderful, it's really wonderful. Commentator Miller watched the chase in the arena and exclaimed, whether it's Qin Chuan or Wang Wenxue, both of them can be said to have maximized their advantages. It can be said that neither of them is giving way to the other. That's right, and there's one more thing. I think that the water dragon that Wang Wenxue condensed at the beginning was deliberately designed to trap Qin Chuan. Her original intention was to detonate the water dragon and create a rain curtain. Then, she would use the raindrops as a carrier to move and launch a sudden attack on Qin Chuan. Even if Qin Chuan reacted quickly and counterattacked, she could take advantage of the situation to move away through the raindrop. She could attack or retreat. It's perfect. However, Qin Chuan is not to be trifled with. When the water dragon exploded and everyone's vision was limited, his main body hid in the dark. He used the Thunder Doppelganger to lure Wang Wenxue to launch a surprise attack and turned the Thunder Doppelganger into a cage to control Wang Wenxue. Although he did not succeed, he made Wang Wenshue's plan fail. It can be said that it was a very wonderful counterattack. However, I'm very curious. The arena is only so big. Where did Qin Chuan hide his main body? The doubts of the commentators were also the doubts of the audience. Although the arena was big, there were no blind spots. Where could Qin Chuan hide? At this moment, the chase on the stage was nearing its end. When the rain fell completely, the uncontrollable power of lightning chasing behind Wang Wenxue gradually dissipated in the air. Wang Wenxue could still use the water on the ground to move freely. It was no exaggeration to say that the stage had completely become Wang Wenshue's exclusive battlefield. However, until now, Wang Wenxue still did not see Qin Chuan's figure. The situation is not good for Wang Wenxue. Qin Chuan has been concealing himself since the beginning, and perhaps he's brewing a killing move. All of us know that Qin Chuan is a formidable talisman formation master, and during this period of time, Qin Chuan has sufficient time to inscribe a formidable talisman formation. Moreover, I suspect that the reason Qin Chuan has been missing all this time is perhaps because he's hiding in an illusion array. I just don't know if Wang Wenxue can guess this. At this moment, the audience was also a little nervous. If Qin Chuan was really hiding in an illusion array and wanted to end this match with a formidable talisman formation, then Wang Wenxue, who had not discovered Qin Chuan's trace, would be in danger. In the arena, Wang Wenxue was also very clear in her heart that if she continued to delay, the situation would become more and more disadvantageous to her. Therefore, she had to find Qin Chuan as soon as possible. An illusion array can deceive my vision, but it can't deceive my attacks. Wang Wenxue shouted in a low voice, and the spirit energy in her entire body surged. The water on the ground suddenly splashed and flew into the air under the control of Wang Wenshue's spirit energy. After that, it transformed into the shape of arrows and shot out in all directions of the arena with Wang Wenxue as the center. Seeing this scene, everyone couldn't help but applaud Wang Wenshue's decision. Sweeping the arena with such an omnidirectional attack without any blind spots, even if she couldn't force Qin Chuan's body out, she would definitely be able to find the illusion array that Qin Chuan was hiding in. The seemingly endless arrows covered the entire arena, and at the southeast corner of the arena, before the arrows touched the defensive talisman formation at the edge of the arena, they suddenly and strangely disappeared, and an empty space about 2 square meters in size appeared. Needless to say, everyone could see that Qin Chuan was definitely hiding in this empty space. Almost at the same time when she discovered this empty space, Wang Wenxue shouted in a low voice again, "Toppling mountains and overturning seas." Following Wang Wenshue's delicate shout, a monstrous wave suddenly emerged from the arena, and brazenly rushed toward the southeast corner. At the same time, the empty space in the southeast corner gradually dissipated, and Qin Chuan's figure slowly appeared. In front of Qin Chuan, there was a colorful array diagram. 5 elements rotation talisman array combination, activate. Qin Chuan, who had been hiding for a long time, finally let out his powerful shout. The 6 talisman arrays in front of him slowly rotated, and one of the earthy yellow talisman arrays suddenly lit up. Suddenly, the sound of the wind and the howling of the sand in the arena were blocked by the huge wave that was rushing over. Counter soldiers with arms, water with an earth weir. At this time, the huge wave and the sandstorm each occupied half of the arena, and they were clearly separated. The surging waves and the howling sandstorm set off a huge momentum, and the scene was extremely spectacular. Oh my God! What is this? Is this really something a foundation establishment cultivator can do? Commentator Wawa was stunned. He stared dumbfoundedly at the 6 talisman arrays in front of Qin Chuan and couldn't help but exclaim, "This is a talisman array combination? How terrifying, there are actually 6 talisman arrays. This is the first time I've seen such a talisman array combination. It's made up of the 5 elements of metal, wood, water, fire, and earth, as well as a thunder talisman array. It's so complicated and profound. This is definitely not the strongest power of this talisman array combination. Qin Chuan must have shown mercy. Just as the commentators were exclaiming over the 5 elements rotation talisman array combination that Qin Chuan had displayed, the audience was also stunned. Even those from the Black Moon Combat Academy who understood Qin Chuan very well were dumbfounded. Their understanding of Qin Chuan was still limited to thunder talisman arrays, and they never knew that Qin Chuan was actually hiding such a huge killing weapon like the 5 elements rotation talisman array combination. This talisman array combination is very strong. Long Xiao looked at the array diagram in front of Qin Chuan with an extremely shocked expression. This kind of pressure, this kind of aura, had almost reached the standard of a rank 3 battle array. When did he learn this kind of thing? Lu Zi's eyes widened. This talisman array combination can definitely display the power of a rank 3 battle array. Lan Shuxin sighed. This is Qin Chuan. He's so strong that it makes people tremble in fear. At this moment, she couldn't help but rejoice once again. The grudges between the Lan family and Qin Chuan had been written off, and there was even a possibility of them becoming friends. Otherwise, it would be terrifying to become enemies with a powerful battle array master like Qin Chuan, who had a boundless future. Chapter 264. While the audience was shocked by the combination of talisman arrays in front of Qin Chuan, Wang Wenxue, who was in the arena, felt extremely bitter. On the stage, it seemed like the giant wave and the sand were on equal footing, each occupying one side. However, in reality, this situation was deliberately created by Qin Chuan. If Qin Chuan wanted to, the sand could overpower the giant wave at any time, turning the stage into a desert. At this time, Wang Wenxue had already used all her spiritual energy to push the waves, but no matter how the waves rolled, they couldn't shake the sand's defense. The feeling of despair pierced Wang Wenxue's heart deeply. She lost. The huge waves gradually calmed down and stopped rolling. They slowly dissipated in the air, and the sand also slowly dissipated. The arena once again returned to its original clean and tidy state. It was as if everything that had happened before was just an illusion, and nothing had happened. Qin Chuan dispersed the 5 elements rotation array formation and slowly walked to Wang Wenxue. Looking at the pale and weak Wang Wenxue, he pursed his lips and said, "Are you okay?" Wang Wenxue looked at Qin Chuan with a complicated expression and said softly, "This time, I lost. You won." Hearing Wang Wenxue admit defeat, Qin Chuan wasn't very happy. He understood Wang Wenxue and knew that she was a very proud person. She would never lower her head and admit defeat. The reason why she chose to rely on the Lu family was because she desired better cultivation resources and wanted to go further on the path of cultivation. Now, she was the freshman representative of the First Academy of Star Dragon. With the strength she displayed, she should have easily led the First Academy of Star Dragon to first place in the freshman competition. You've already performed very well. No one will blame you. Qin Chuan didn't know how to comfort Wang Wenxue. He only hoped that Wang Wenxue could relax and not feel too much pressure. No one will ever remember who took second place. The First Academy of Star Dragon has always held the top spot, but today they lost it in my hands. Wang Wenxue's eyes were lonely as she looked at the ground and whispered, "I'm not as good as you." After saying these words, Wang Wenxue turned around and slowly walked down the arena. As the loser, she no longer had the qualifications to stand on the arena. Now it belonged to the winner. Wang Gan stood at the edge of the arena and looked at the dejected Wang Wenxue. He sighed and said in a clear voice, "I announce that the winner of this match is Qin Chuan of the Black Moon Combat Academy." The final winner of the finals is the Black Moon Combat Academy. Let us congratulate the Black Moon Combat Academy for taking first place in the freshman competition. As Wang Gan's eyes, the youth who was good at creating miracles, all of Star Dragon City. All the spectators were all cheering for the birth of a new king. The audience looked excitedly at Qin Chuan, this youth who was good at creating miracles. Let us use our warm applause and cheers to congratulate Qin Chuan and the Black Moon Combat Academy. For the Black Moon Combat Academy to have such a strong contestant like Qin Chuan, they definitely deserve to take first place in this year's freshman competition. That's right, we do need to congratulate the Black Moon Combat Academy. However, even though the first Academy of Star Dragon has lost, it's still a glorious defeat. After all, no one would have expected that such a monstrous contestant like Qin Chuan would appear in this year's 6 Great Academies ranking tournament. The strength he displayed, especially that last combination of talisman arrays, is simply unbelievably terrifying. As far as I know, this is the first time that the Black Moon Combat Academy has taken first place in the freshman competition. It really wasn't easy. The commentators, Wawa and Methreya, looked at the youth standing on the stage and sighed with emotion. This youth, who wasn't even 20 years old, had given them too many surprises and shocks in today's competition. Now that the dust has settled on the freshman competition, I'm suddenly looking forward to the official competition. If the Black Moon Combat Academy's results in the official competition aren't ideal, then perhaps Qin Chuan will participate in the official competition as a substitute. I'm really looking forward to seeing Qin Chuan clash with the other contestants in the official competition. Let's see what kind of sparks will fly. Although Qin Chuan's performance in the freshman competition could be said to be unrivaled, whether or not he will participate in the official competition, and whether or not he can perform as well as he did in the official competition is something worth looking forward to. We're not cursing the Black Moon Combat Academy's results, we just don't want Qin Chuan's journey in the 6 Great Academies ranking tournament to end so quickly. That's right, we just hope to see this miraculous youth create even more miracles. At this moment, the stage was no longer isolated from the outside world. Qin Chuan could hear the frenzied shouts from the audience, as well as the commentators' sighs. He looked at the crowd before him, then at Chen Chongqing and the rest below the stage. He smiled and waved at them, asking them to go up the stage together. Seeing this, Chen Chongqing immediately rushed up the stage, as if all his injuries had been healed. He excitedly said to Qin Chuan, "Boss, we won. We're the champions." It's just the freshman competition. It's too early to say that we're the champions. Qin Chuan chuckled. He glanced at Bluepool, who had just woken up, and Zhao Feihong. Suddenly, he reached out his hand and smiled. Brothers united. Seeing Qin Chuan's actions, Bluepool and Chen Chongqing excitedly placed their hands on Qin Chuan's. Zhao Feihong was a little shy at first, but in the end, he still placed his hand on Qin Chuan's hand. Together with Qin Chuan and the other two, they shouted, "Sharp enough to cut through gold. We're number 1. Below the stage, Wang Wenxue looked at Su Wenliang, who was in a sorry state, and Yu Kai'er, who didn't know whether to be happy or disappointed. She said softly, "Sorry to disappoint you. I lost." "It's okay." Yu Kai'er sighed and said to Wang Wenxue, "It's not your fault. It's all Qin Chuan's fault. He's too abnormal. Qin Chuan is indeed too strong. Even if we joined forces, we wouldn't be able to withstand his last combination of talismans." Su Wenliang immediately rushed over to watch the match after waking up. It could be said that he had witnessed the whole process of Wang Wenxue and Qin Chuan's fight. He could tell that Wang Wenxue had tried her best, but Qin Chuan was really too strong. His performance was too perfect. Just as Su Wenliang and Yu Kai'er were comforting Wang Wenxue to not be too sad, Xing Shulan suddenly rushed over. She stared at Wang Wenxue with hatred and joy in her eyes. She sneered and said, "Wang Wenxue, you're our school's sinner. You're the one who lost our school's first place in the freshman competition. Let's see if you still have the face to pretend to be virtuous when you return to school this time. How are you going to face the teachers and students in school?" Hearing this, Wang Wenxue took a deep look at Xing Shulan and said, "You don't have to worry about my matters. You'd better consider what kind of impact you'll have on the school if you refuse to admit defeat." Chapter 265. The 6th Great Academy's Freshman Tournament has ended. Black Moon Combat Academy wins. Star Dragon's First Academy loses first place. Black Moon Combat Academy wins the Freshman Tournament. Miraculous Youth Qin Chuan, high-spirited, leads team to consecutive victories, wins first place in the Freshman Tournament. After the freshman competition ended, the news of the finals covered the sky and covered the earth. It was even more sensational than any of the previous news. This time, it wasn't Star Dragon's First Academy that had reached the top, but the Black Moon Combat Academy. Miraculous Youth Qinchuan's name resounded through the streets and alleys of Star Dragon City. More than half of the Federation was talking about this youth, who had left everyone in the dust in the freshman tournament. He had displayed strength that far surpassed his peers. In particular, the talisman array combination that Qin Chuan had inscribed at the last moment attracted a lot of attention. In the hotel, Duan Yusin sat on the sofa and stared at the crystal screen. She couldn't help but exclaim in admiration as she watched the array diagram that had appeared in front of Qin Chuan. "Linlin, this junior brother of yours is really terrifying. How did he inscribe such a complicated combination of glyphs?" Duan Yusin sighed and exclaimed, "This array combination includes the 5 elements of metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. There's even the thunder element. He can actually perfectly fuse so many elements together. It's simply too abnormal." Zhou Lin, who was sitting to the side, looked at the paused image on the crystal screen with a subtle expression. She said to Duan Yusin, "This is nothing to him." Zhou Lin understood Qin Chuan quite well. When Qin Chuan was still in the body tempering stage, he had already reached the level of materializing a domain. A 5-element array combination was nothing to Qin Chuan. Seeing that Zhou Lin wasn't surprised by Qin Chuan's exaggerated performance, Duan Yusin couldn't help but roll her eyes and say, "I really have to hand it to you. Qin Chuan's abnormal performance didn't even cause the slightest fluctuation in your emotions. Did you already know that he was this abnormal? With the relationship between the two of you, it's not impossible. Alright, let's not look at these things anymore. Let's study our opponents for the official competition." The freshman competition was over, and the official competition was about to begin. They couldn't afford to be careless in the face of powerful opponents. Affiliated University of the Xiantian sect. In the training room, Chen Aochu's eyes were slightly cold as he watched the battle on the crystal screen. When the combination of the 5 elements rotation glyph array appeared in front of Qin Chuan, his face could not help but become extremely gloomy. Even on the other side of the crystal screen, he seemed to be able to feel the enormous power of the combination of the 5 elements cycle rune arrays. The power that should not be controlled by a building foundation stage cultivator made him feel nervous and scared, and he almost couldn't help but tremble. He was merely in the early stage of the foundation establishment stage, a poor kid from the slums. What right did he have to be so outstanding and so strong? He was the young master of the Black Heaven sect. How could he be afraid of such a piece of trash? The freshman competition is over. Next, it's time for the official competition. Chen Aochu took a deep breath and forced himself to calm down. Perhaps Qin Chuan did not even have the chance to participate in the official competition. There was nothing for him to worry about. Qin Family Lake Pavilion. After the finals of the freshman competition ended, Qin Ju came here. He looked at the sparkling lake with a complicated gaze. His mood was completely calm. Sister, I hope that he can be like that person back then. He is so talented that he can suppress his generation. However, when I really see him blossom with boundless radiance, I suddenly feel a little scared. I also hope that he can be ordinary and live a carefree life. I'm really scared. I'm scared that Qinchuan will end up like that person back then. In the end, he won't have a good ending and will implicate the people around him. If I were in the nascent soul stage now, I would do my best to protect him and kill whoever dares to touch him. However, I am only in the peak gold core stage. The nascent soul stage is still far away. What should I do? Qin Ju's face was full of worry. He really didn't know what to do. Also in the Qin family, in Qin Haoshuan's exclusive villa. When he saw Qin Chuan standing in the arena and shining with boundless radiance, he did not feel angry. Instead, he felt that things had become more interesting. When a person stands at a high place, it will hurt even more when he falls. I really hope that he, the dark horse of the freshman competition, can make some waves in the official competition. That way, when I defeat him, I will feel a greater sense of accomplishment. Qin Haoshuan looked coldly at Qinchuan's figure on the crystal screen. His expression was cold and his killing intent was soaring. After the freshman competition ended, the Black Moon Combat Academy immediately held a press conference to satisfy the media's desire for interviews. However, when the excited media rushed to the scene, they found that the most dazzling contestant in the freshman competition, Qin Chuan, was not present at the press conference. Naturally, the media was incomparably disappointed with this. Dear friends, because Qin Chuan overdrew his spiritual power during the competition, there are some problems with his body. He is currently receiving treatment, so he can't accept any interviews for the time being. However, I have a basic understanding of Qinchuan's situation. If you have any questions, you can ask me. Lan Weiwei smiled as she faced the media. She gave a reasonable explanation for Qinchuan's absence. Hearing Lan Weiwei's words, a media reporter immediately asked, Teacher Lan, what kind of talisman array combination did Qinchuan inscribe at the end of the competition? This was a question that many media reporters were very concerned about. Everyone pricked up their ears and waited for Lan Weiwei's answer. The 5 elements rotation talisman array combination was formed by the 5 elements of metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. As for the specifics, I can't answer because this is classified information. Every cultivator had their own secret killing move that would not be easily revealed. Qinchuan's 5 elements rotation talisman array combination was so powerful that it was naturally one of his secret killing move. Of course, Lan Weiwei could not reveal everything just because a media reporter asked. Moreover, her understanding was very limited. Teacher Lan, will student Qin Chuan participate in the official competition? This was another question that the media reporters were concerned about. With the strength that Qin Chuan had displayed, it was definitely more than enough for him to participate in the official competition. Unless the official representatives of the Black Moon Combat Academy were all stronger than Qin Chuan, that would be too exaggerated. I can't be sure at the moment because it depends on the performance of the official representatives as well as Qin Chuan's condition. Lan Weiwei smiled. She answered all of the questions, but her answers were very vague. In the end, it was the same as not saying anything. Now that the Black Moon Combat Academy has taken first place in the newcomer competition and obtained 20 points, what is your goal for the official competition? Lan Weiwei seriously considered this question for a moment, then solemnly replied, I can't be sure at the moment. Media reporters. Chapter 266. In Star Dragon City, Qin Chuan was still wearing a mask and sunglasses as he slowly walked on the street. His eyes were casually looking at the pedestrians and scenery on the street. Currently, the 6 Great Academies ranking tournament could be said to be the hottest topic right now. No matter where he went, he could hear people talking about the 6 Great Academies ranking tournament. And as the miracle youth, he was naturally the topic of discussion. I'll bet with you guys that if the Black Moon Combat Academy doesn't perform well in the official tournament, Qinchuan will definitely be a substitute. A slightly plump youth solemnly vowed. He was clearly Qinchuan's loyal fan. Hoodlum's words make some sense, but I feel that Qinchuan's performance in the newcomers competition might not be as strong in the official tournament. You should know that those who can participate in the official tournament are not simple. The skinny youth with glasses agreed with the plump youth's words, but he felt that Qinchuan's appearance might not be able to improve the Black Moon Combat Academy's performance. After all, the Black Moon Combat Academy's overall strength was still too weak. It wouldn't be easy for Qinchuan to carry 4 people by himself. Qinchuan paused beside the 2 youths before smiling and walking forward. As for whether or not he would participate, Qinchuan did not want to think too much about it. He knew that he would definitely participate. Even if the Black Moon Combat Academy did not want him to participate, there would definitely be some people who would create an opportunity for him to participate. After all, he had offended quite a few people. Unknowingly, Qinchuan walked to the entrance of a hotel. Seeing the familiar hotel in front of him, he froze for a moment before walking in without hesitation. After entering the hotel, Qinchuan directly took the elevator to the 40th floor. When the elevator opened on the 40th floor, Qinchuan coincidentally saw the person he wanted to see. Senior sister, what a coincidence! Qinchuan smiled as he looked at Zhou Lin, who was standing outside the elevator. I unknowingly walked here, so I wanted to come and see you. Outside the elevator, Zhou Lin saw that Qinchuan had suddenly appeared and was somewhat happy. She smiled at Qinchuan and then said to Duan Yusin, who was standing beside her with a mysterious smile, "You go eat by yourself. Qinchuan and I are going out for a walk." Duan Yusin, who had originally wanted to be a third wheel, could not help but roll her eyes. This guy really did not give her any face. Although they said that they were going out for a walk, they were actually going to the restaurant opposite the hotel to eat. Qinchuan and Zhou Lin sat in front of the window. Qinchuan zest. I watched the competition. You performed very well, especially the 5 elements circle charm array combination at the end. Even I might not have been able to block it. It was really strong. Zhou Lin had never been stingy with praises, especially for Qinchuan. If she felt that Qinchuan's performance was good, she would definitely say it. It was not only to encourage Qinchuan, but also to let Qinchuan see her approval of him. Qinchuan chuckled and said, "It's just the newcomer competition. If it was the official competition, I might not have been able to perform as well as I did." In the end, the newcomer competition was just a warm-up competition. The real highlight was the official competition. All along, the ranking competition of the 6 Great Academies had only been referring to the official competition. Now, he was being covered by a large number of media reporters. Topics about him could be heard everywhere. It seemed that he was in the limelight, but once the official competition began, no one would pay attention to him anymore. This was because there would definitely be people who would perform more horribly than him in the official competition. For example, Qin Haoshuan. Zhou Lin looked deeply at Qinchuan and said, "Don't belittle yourself. I understand you. At least among the people I know, you are the first person who can manifest an embryonic domain at this stage. You will definitely shine brightly in the future." Zhou Lin had always held great confidence in Qinchuan. Whether it was Qin Haoshuan or Qin Aochu, Zhou Lin felt that they had only become outstanding because of their family background. They did not have the qualifications to be compared to Qinchuan, who had relied on his own strength to become a genius. "Senior sister, have you always thought of me like this?" Qinchuan smiled. "To be honest, I'm under a lot of pressure." Only when there is pressure will there be motivation. Zhou Lin said seriously to Qin Chuan, I feel that with the overall strength of the Black Moon Combat Academy, it will be difficult for them to move forward in the official competition. At that time, you will truly feel the pressure. During these days, other than watching Qin Chuan's matches, Zhou Lin had been researching the opponents in the official competition. It was not an exaggeration to say that she had thoroughly researched the official representatives of the Black Moon Combat Academy. In her mind, the overall strength of the Black Moon Combat Academy's official representatives could only be ranked fourth among the 6 great academies. If they were lucky, they would only be ranked third. If they were unlucky, they might suffer consecutive defeats and be eliminated. When Qin Chuan heard this, he curiously asked Zhou Lin, What do you think about the strength of our Black Moon Combat Academy's official representatives? I won't talk about Lan Shuxin and Han Ting. In my opinion, the 2 of them are just there to make up the numbers. Lu Zi is an illusion array master and her actual combat strength is weak. Whether or not she can win depends on her luck. Long Xiao is the Long clan's main wife's daughter and a powerful battle array master. If she can inscribe a battle array, there will be very few people who can be her opponent. As for that Bai Yu, to be honest, she gives me the strongest sense of threat. Her strength might not be any weaker than yours. When she was commenting on these people, Zhou Lin's words could be said to be very blunt. In her eyes, the 2 second-year students, Lan Shuxin and Han Ting, were just there to make up the numbers. As for Zhou Lin's opinion of Bai Yu, Qin Chuan expressed his agreement. If Bai Yu really did not have any misgivings and fought without restraint, then perhaps Zhou Lin really would not be her opponent. Bai Yu is a rather special person. Senior sister, if you meet her in the competition, you should be careful. Although Zhou Lin's relationship with Qin Chuan was very good, Bai Yu was still an official representative of the Black Moon Combat Academy. She was also his friend, so he could only tell Zhou Lin this much. When Zhou Lin heard this, she lightly raised her eyebrows and asked, You think I will lose? There is no such thing as an invincible general in this world. Senior sister, everyone has the possibility of losing. Qin Chuan smiled and said, Sometimes there is no need to be too obsessed with winning or losing. As long as you show what you need to show, then it will be fine. Let's not talk about this anymore. Cheers. Zhou Lin raised her wine cup and said to Qin Chuan, Let us first congratulate you for obtaining first place in the freshman competition. As for the official competition, if you are not participating, then come and cheer for me. Of course. Qin Chuan laughed. Let us congratulate the Starry Sky Academy in advance for obtaining first place in the 6 Great Academies ranking competition under the leadership of the Queen of Blades. Chapter 267. When Qin Chuan returned to the office, it was already 8 o'clock in the evening. At this time, most of the media reporters who had gathered at the entrance of the office had already dispersed, so Qin Chuan easily mixed in. Originally, Qin Chuan thought that the office would be very lively and that everyone should be having a party. However, to his surprise, the office was exceptionally quiet. On the contrary, the training room was brightly lit. When Qin Chuan walked into the training room, he saw that everyone was training in the training room. Everyone's expression was extremely serious. Obviously, they were not being perfunctory. Seeing this lively scene, although Qin Chuan was surprised, he was more gratified. Everyone did not slack off just because they won the championship of the new student competition. They still worked hard to cultivate, which was a very good thing. Boss, you're back. Zhao Feihong, who had just finished a wave of weight-bearing training, saw Qin Chuan come back. He wiped his sweat and came to Qin Chuan's side. He said somewhat embarrassedly, Boss, I was a little excited to see your performance under the arena today. After I came back, I advanced to the foundation establishment stage. Hearing Zhao Feihong's words, Qin Chuan found that the fluctuations of Zhao Feihong's aura had obviously become much stronger and unstable. Then, I really have to congratulate you, Qin Chuan chuckled and said to Zhao Feihong, this trip was not in vain. If I could have advanced a little earlier, maybe I could have gone on the stage. In fact, Zhao Feihong still had some regrets in his heart. Seeing everyone show their own style in the arena, he was also eager to fight to prove himself. However, with his strength at the peak of the 13th level of the Qi refining stage at that time, going on the stage would only be a joke. There will be another chance in the future. Qin Chuan patted Zhao Feihong's shoulder and smiled. Maybe when the official representatives are all injured and can't participate, it will be time for us substitutes to go on the stage. Hearing Qin Chuan's words, Zhao Feihong did not know what to say. Official representatives are all injured? Is this a curse? Qin Chuan, nothing good comes out of your filthy mouth. It was unknown when Long Xiao had walked over. She fiercely rolled her eyes at Qin Chuan. Clearly, she had heard what Qin Chuan had just said and was very unhappy. When Qin Chuan saw Long Xiao walking over, he grinned and said, the official competition will begin the day after tomorrow. How are your preparations going? Hard to say. Long Xiao, on the other hand, did not appear very confident. To be honest, whether or not we can successfully advance depends on who our opponents are. Among the 6 great academies, other than the Black Moon Combat Academy, the strongest was naturally the First Academy of the Star Dragon Academy, followed by the Federation's Military University and the Cosmic Sky Academy. The Divine Sword Academy and the Black Heaven Sect's affiliated universities were not weak either. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that no matter who the Black Moon Combat Academy encountered, it would be a fierce battle. It was impossible for them to win easily. When Qin Chuan heard this, he muttered to himself for a moment before saying to Long Xiao, actually, the most suitable opponents for us should be the Black Heaven Sect's affiliated universities. Only by facing them can we have a chance of advancing directly. Long Xiao looked at Qin Chuan with some astonishment and asked, why do you say that? Could it be that you look down on Chen Aochu? By now, everyone basically knew that Chen Aochu was Chen Chongqing's half-brother and that their relationship was not harmonious. However, this did not mean that Chen Aochu was easy to deal with, right? The Divine Sword Academy has the little sword deity Su Kuang, the Federation's Military University has Shimen Bei, and the Cosmic Sky Academy has Senior Zhou Lin. I won't talk about the First Academy of the Star Dragon Academy, but how do you think Chen Aochu compares to them? Qin Chuan seriously looked at Long Xiao. Although he did not feel that Bai Yu, Long Xiao, and Lu Zi were weaker than the few people he mentioned, but if they could meet the weaker Chen Aochu, then why would they have to face those stronger ones first? Long Xiao was silent for a moment, then bitterly smiled and said, what you said makes some sense. However, we can't decide which opponents we will face. It depends on the results of the lot drawing. Among the 5 great academies, there was only a 20% chance of drawing the Black Heaven Sect's affiliated universities. Logically speaking, it was really too low. Yi family. Old man, if you don't agree to my request today, then I will sever all ties with you. A young girl with a veil on her face stood in front of a white-haired old man and shouted loudly. It was obviously a very willful and unruly action, but it made people feel that it was pleasing to the eye. My good granddaughter, the 6 great academies ranking tournament is very important. How can I casually interfere with the lot drawing ceremony? The old man was somewhat helpless. He really couldn't understand why his granddaughter would actually make such a rude request of him. Once people found out that their Yi family had tampered with the lot drawing ceremony of the 6 great academies ranking competition, their Yi family's many years of reputation would be ruined. Grandfather, I just want you to help me arrange the First Academy of Star Dragon Academy and the Black Moon Combat Academy together. Is that so difficult? The young girl squatted in front of the old man and begged, "You've always doted on me the most, so just agree to my request." Looking at his spoiled granddaughter, the old man clearly could not take it any more. He bitterly smiled and helplessly said, "I can help you arrange it, but you have to tell me what you want." The young girl was pleasantly surprised when she heard this. She immediately said to the old man, "Grandfather, you agree to my request? The premise is that you have to tell me what your goal is." The old man sighed and said, "With the strength of the First Academy of Star Dragon Academy, even if they don't draw the weakest Black Moon Combat Academy, they can still easily advance to the semi-finals. Grandfather, my goal is actually very simple. I want to crush the Black Moon Combat Academy and send them to the revival round." The young girl smiled and said to the old man, "I've already told you my goal, so you can't go back on your word." The old man looked at the young girl meaningfully and said, "It's that simple?" "Of course." The young girl nodded vigorously. "It's that simple. All right, grandfather agrees." The old man smiled. "This time, I'll throw away my old face and help you fulfill your wish." "Thank you, grandfather." The young girl had achieved her goal and happily left. The old man remained in the living room and pondered for a long time. Suddenly, he said in a low voice, "Ahu, do you think that Qing Ning wants to send the Black Moon Combat Academy to the revival round because she wants to force Qin Chuan to fight?" As the old man's voice fell, a thin figure slowly appeared behind him and respectfully said in a low voice, "Recently, the young miss has been investigating Qin Chuan. Although Qin Chuan's performance in the newcomer competition was strong, he might not be able to participate in the official competition. If the Black Moon Combat Academy is forced into a desperate situation, then Qin Chuan might be a substitute. If that's the case, then Qing Ning's true goal is indeed Qin Chuan." The old man narrowed his eyes and asked, "What do you think of Qin Chuan?" Ahu was silent for a moment and then said in a low voice, "He's not a good match." Chapter 268. On the 28th of May, the lot drawing ceremony for the 6 great academies was about to begin. Compared to the new student competition, the lot drawing ceremony for the official competition was much livelier and more people paid attention to it. It was only 8 in the morning, but thousands of people had already gathered in front of the crystal screens in Star Dragon City. Countless people were watching the live broadcast of the lot drawing ceremony at home. The viewership was much higher than the new student competition. At this time, the official representatives of the 6 great academies had already gathered in the Red Dragon Gymnasium. They stood on the stage and calmly faced the audience. The camera started from the first academy of Star Dragon City and swept past everyone. The first person to appear was the Qin family's genius, Qin Haoshuan. The moment Qin Haoshuan appeared, the entire Star Dragon City burst into cheers. Most of the cheers were from young girls. They liked people like Qin Haoshuan, who had an outstanding background, outstanding talent, and extremely handsome looks. The next person to appear was the Yi family's Yi Qing Ning. Even though Yi Qing Ning was wearing a veil, it couldn't hide her peerless beauty. Through the crystal screens, everyone could feel the astonishing charm of Yi Qing Ning. They couldn't help but look infatuated. Even the girls couldn't resist Yi Qing Ning's charm. Other than Qin Haoshuan and Yi Qing Ning, the audience was much calmer when they saw the other contestants. After all 30 contestants were shown on camera, it was time for the lot drawing ceremony to officially begin. The lot drawing ceremony for the official competition wasn't much different from the new student competition. It was still 1, 3, 5, 2, 4, and 6. Under the arrangement of the education department, the first person to draw was the captain of the First Academy of Star Dragon City, Qin Haoshuan. Qin Haoshuan slowly stepped forward and calmly drew the number 1 from the box. Su Kuang from the Divine Sword Academy stepped forward and drew lot number 3. Chen Aochu from the Black Heaven Sex affiliated university drew lot number 4. Shimin Bei from the Federal Military University drew lot number 5. Zhou Lin from the Cosmic Star Academy drew lot number 6. Only the second lot was left. Only the Black Moon Combat Academy had yet to draw lots. The result was already decided. The Black Moon Combat Academy would draw the number 2 and face the First Academy of Star Dragon City tomorrow. Just yesterday, the Black Moon Combat Academy had defeated the Star Dragon Academy's number 1 academy and obtained first place in the freshman competition. Today, the Black Moon Combat Academy had unexpectedly met the Star Dragon Academy's number 1 academy once again. It had to be said that this was fate. For a moment, many people were looking forward to the clash between the Black Moon Combat Academy and Star Dragon's number 1 academy. They all wanted to see if the Black Moon Combat Academy could once again amaze the world and defeat Star Dragon's number 1 academy. Naturally, there were also many spectators who wanted to see Star Dragon's first academy beat up the Black Moon Combat Academy and restore their reputation. Han Ting, who had returned with lot number 2, had an extremely bitter expression on his face. He had never thought that the Black Moon Combat Academy would be left with lot number 2. Seeing Han Ting's ugly expression, Lan Shuxin sighed helplessly and said, "There's nothing we can do about it. Didn't we make mental preparations long ago?" With the Black Moon Combat Academy's strength, no matter who they faced, it would be a fierce battle. It didn't matter who they faced. Isn't it just Star Dragon's first academy? If Qinchuan can defeat them, then so can we. That's right. We'll only know after we fight. We haven't even fought yet. As the captain, you can't be discouraged. Let's go. Even if we lose, we still have the revival round. Don't be afraid. Hearing everyone's words, Han Ting felt the pressure on his body lessen slightly. Although the official representatives of Star Dragon's number 1 academy all looked very strong, he shouldn't be so worried before they fought. He should be filled with confidence in everyone. On the other side, Qin Haoshuan saw the Black Moon Combat Academy's reaction and couldn't help but sneer. He said to the people around him, "I won't be coming to the competition tomorrow morning." If their opponents were other academies, Qin Haoshuan might have been interested. However, against the Black Moon Combat Academy, unless Qin Chuan went up on stage, he wouldn't be interested at all. Hearing Qin Haoshuan's words, everyone understood what he meant. Smiles appeared on their faces one after another. "Haoshuan, don't worry. You don't need to fight against the Black Moon Combat Academy. When the time comes, we'll naturally send them to the revival round. It's a pity that there's still a revival round. Otherwise, we'll directly send them back to the Black Moon Mountain Range." Ha! Seeing everyone's relaxed attitude, Yi Qingning couldn't help but frown. The Black Moon Combat Academy still has a few powerful people. Be careful of your attitude. She really hated Qin Haoshuan's arrogance. Hearing Yi Qingning's words, the few people who had been laughing impudently immediately restrained themselves and became serious. Now that Yi Qingning had spoken, whoever lost to the Black Moon Combat Academy on the arena tomorrow would be in an awkward situation. In the office, Qin Chuan watched the entire process of the lot drawing ceremony through the live broadcast. He didn't know what to say about the Black Moon Combat Academy's luck. "If it were up to me, you should just go up on stage and get rid of all these people." Wang Bo, who was sitting beside Qin Chuan, patted Qin Chuan's shoulder and smiled. "I don't think anyone from the First Academy of Star Dragon is your opponent." Qin Chuan rolled his eyes at Wang Bo and said, "We have to believe in everyone's strength. Also, I'm just a substitute, not an official representative. Before the official representative loses, I won't go up on stage." Qin Chuan wouldn't look down on the official representative just because he had shocked everyone in the freshman competition. If there wasn't a need for him, he wouldn't want to go up on stage. After all, everyone only had one chance to participate in the 6 Great Academies ranking competition. Everyone was eager to prove their strength in the arena. As a comrade, he should believe in his comrade. That Qin Haoshuan, I feel annoyed whenever I see him. Wang Bo snorted and said, if you have the chance to go up on stage, remember to beat him up. People like him, who think they're great, are the most annoying. Qin Chuan knew that Wang Bo hated Qin Haoshuan because of how Qin Haoshuan had tried to recruit him. He chuckled at Wang Bo and said, I promise you that if I have the chance to go up on stage, I'll definitely beat him up. Well done. Wang Bo laughed loudly and high-fived Qin Chuan. Blue Pool and Chen Chongqing looked at each other helplessly as they watched Qin Chuan and Wang Bo. These two fellows were laughing so happily that those who didn't know would think that they had already defeated the First Academy of Star Dragon. Tomorrow's opening battle would really affect everyone's hearts. Chapter 269. After the lot drawing ceremony ended, the official matches would begin at 9 a.m. the next day. The first match would be between the First Academy of Star Dragon and the Black Moon Combat Academy. This was a match that everyone had their eyes on. On one side was the First Academy of Star Dragon, who had held first place for many years, and on the other side was the Black Moon Combat Academy, who had emerged as a new force in the new student competition. At this time, many spectators wanted to see if the official representatives of the Black Moon Combat Academy could win as powerfully as the new students. If they lost too badly, they would be criticized greatly. Everyone returned to the office from the Red Dragon Stadium. Although they were smiling, their smiles were extremely forced. Qin Chuan, who had come to greet everyone, saw this scene and felt somewhat helpless. In this kind of situation, anything he said would be inappropriate. Qin Chuan, come here for a moment. Feng Zhu suddenly waved at Qin Chuan, indicating that Qin Chuan should follow him to the side for a chat. Qin Chuan saw this and followed Feng Zhu to the side. When they reached a place where there was no one else, Feng Zhu turned to look at Qin Chuan and sighed, You saw it just now, right? Everyone's mood is not very high. Your strong performance in the new student competition has put a lot of pressure on everyone. Qin Chuan nodded and said helplessly, I also didn't expect that everyone would meet the First Academy of Star Dragon in the first match. In Qin Chuan's eyes, other than the First Academy of Star Dragon, they could fight against anyone they met. However, they just had to meet the First Academy of Star Dragon, which was the most difficult to deal with. It could only be said that their luck was extremely bad. I know that you are stronger than Lan Shuxin and Han Ting, but in tomorrow's match, I don't want you to be a substitute. Feng Zhu looked seriously at Qin Chuan and said, I want to give everyone a chance. I want to believe in everyone just this once. Qin Chuan laughed and said, To be honest, I think so too. Hearing Qin Chuan's answer, Zhu Feng chuckled. It's great that you can think like this. However, you have to be mentally prepared. If we lose tomorrow, we will definitely enter the revival round. At that time, we may need you. If you can't continue to create miracles and lead us to break out of the revival round, it may have a great impact on your reputation. So, I want to ask for your opinion now. When everyone needs you, are you willing to stand up and be the savior? Zhu Feng knew that this was very unfair to Qin Chuan and that it would put a lot of pressure on Qin Chuan. However, there was no way for him to have the best of both worlds. If the Black Moon Combat Academy really did enter the revival round, then their opponents would not necessarily be weak. If they were defeated, then their journey in the 6 Great Academies ranking tournament would come to an end. This was not something that Zhu Feng wanted to see happen. Since they were able to take first place in the freshman competition, then they definitely had hopes of becoming champions in the official competition. All of this depended on Qin Chuan's performance. Therefore, Qin Chuan's attitude was very important. In response to Zhu Feng's serious inquiry, Qin Chuan smiled and said, Actually, I'm very willing to contribute to the Academy's honor. No matter who my opponents are, I will do my best and not leave behind any regret. Hearing Qinchuan's answer, Zhu Feng felt relieved. At the same time, he also felt guilty towards Qinchuan. This was because he felt that this was too unfair to Qinchuan. Seeing the guilty expression on Zhu Feng's face, Qinchuan reached out and patted Zhu Feng's arm. Senior, you don't have to feel guilty towards me. This is what I should do and what I must do. Even if today's events hadn't happened, Qinchuan would have definitely taken action when the Black Moon Combat Academy was in a desperate situation. This was because his goal wasn't as simple as taking first place in the ranking competition. His true goal was to defeat Qin Haoshuan. Although he wouldn't have the opportunity to fight Qin Haoshuan in the first match tomorrow, the two of them would definitely clash on the road to becoming the champion. Thank you, Qinchuan. No matter what, Zhu Feng was very grateful towards Qinchuan. If anyone were to speak ill of Qinchuan, he would be the first to disagree. After chatting with Zhu Feng, Qinchuan walked towards the cultivation room. Just as he had expected, the official representatives weren't in the mood to rest when they were about to face a crucial match tomorrow. They were all working hard to cultivate. Looking at the solemn expressions on everyone's faces, Qinchuan's mood couldn't help but become heavy. Everyone is under a lot of pressure. Chen Changxing walked to Qinchuan's side and sighed. Although no one has said it out loud, I can see that they are all holding back their energy. They want to defeat the First Academy tomorrow. Defeating the First Academy of Star Dragon was easier said than done. Not to mention Qin Haoshuan and Yi Qingning, just the other three would be difficult to deal with. Jiang Wudi and Yu Man are both in the late stage of the Foundation establishment realm. Drizzt is even at the great circle of the Foundation establishment realm. Even Bai Yu wouldn't dare to say that she could win against these three, let alone the others. On paper, the First Academy of Star Dragon is simply too strong. Just thinking about it made Chen Changxing feel that there was no hope for them to win tomorrow's match. Unless Bai Yu was like Qinchuan, going all out and winning consecutive matches. However, Qinchuan's opponents were all freshmen, and the strongest among them was only in the middle stage of the Foundation establishment realm. On the other hand, the weakest official representative of the First Academy of Star Dragon was in the late stage of the Foundation establishment realm. They were 2 whole stages higher than Bai Yu. The difference was simply too great. Where there is a will, there is a way. Qinchuan also knew that tomorrow would be a tough battle. At this time, he still needed to encourage everyone and not say anything discouraging. Chen Changxing also understood Qinchuan's meaning. He sighed again and turned to leave. Qinchuan walked towards Bai Yu, who was meditating. Qinchuan's arrival woke Bai Yu, who was immersed in cultivation. She looked up at Qinchuan and said, "You're here." Qinchuan sat down in front of Bai Yu and said, "In tomorrow's match, don't expose yourself too much." Bai Yu's expression changed slightly when she heard this. She whispered, "If I don't go all out, I will lose." "I know I will lose, but there is still the revival match in me." Qinchuan said seriously to Bai Yu, "If you expose yourself, you will be in great danger. Therefore, you must protect yourself well." Bai Yu fell silent. She didn't immediately agree with Qinchuan because she didn't want to lose. Qinchuan saw through Bai Yu's thoughts, so he gave her a strong dose of medicine. He said seriously, "Think about your clansmen. They are all waiting for you to save them. If you are in danger because of a moment of victory, what will happen to them?" Hearing this, Bai Yu's expression immediately became firm. "I know, I will learn to endure." Chapter 270. On May 29th, at 8 in the morning, the Black Moon Combat Academy's group left the office and entered the Red Dragon Gymnasium through the special passage for the contestants. At this time, the Red Dragon Gymnasium was already filled to the brim. Compared to the newcomer competition, the arena for the official competition was much wider, making it more convenient for the contestants to perform. The referee had also been replaced by a cultivator of the late gold core stage. Even the host had changed from a handsome young man with witty remarks to a beautiful woman in a long dress, attracting the attention of countless people. In the preparation area, when the 5 people from the Black Moon Combat Academy arrived, the people from the First Academy of Star Dragon had also arrived. However, there were only 4 of them. Qin Haoshuan had said yesterday that he wouldn't be coming, and he really hadn't. When he saw the Black Moon Combat Academy's group arrive, Jiang Wudi sneered and asked, "What? That miraculous youth of yours doesn't plan to participate?" The Black Moon Combat Academy's group ignored Jiang Wudi's provocation. Jiang Wudi didn't get angry when he saw that no one was paying attention to him. He chuckled and continued, "Qin Haoshuan won't be coming today, so there are only 4 of us. Maybe Junior Yi won't be coming either. Just the 3 of us will be enough to easily defeat you." When he heard Jiang Wudi's words, Han Ting's face couldn't help but turn gloomy. Qin Haoshuan wasn't coming, which meant that he was looking down on them. "You can act all you want now. When the 4 of you are defeated, I want to see if Qin Haoshuan can make it in time." Lu Zi coldly snorted and retorted. She didn't care if her opponent was strong or not. She could lose in the arena, but she couldn't lose in an argument. "You must be Lu Zi." Suddenly, Yi Qingning, who was sitting quietly at the side, raised her eyes and looked at Lu Zi. Her bright and clear eyes revealed a hint of curiosity. When Lu Zi heard this, she turned to look at Yi Qingning and couldn't help but be stunned. Although she couldn't see Yi Qingning's face clearly, her eyes made her feel that Yi Qingning was extremely beautiful. She was indeed worthy of the title of Star Dragon Goddess. "I'm Lu Zi. Do you know me?" "Not really, but I've heard of you. I know that you have a good relationship with Qin Chuan, so I'm a little curious about you." Hearing Yi Qingning's answer, Lu Zi couldn't help but reveal a look of surprise. She didn't expect Yi Qingning to be curious about her because of her relationship with Qin Chuan. When did Qin Chuan contact Yi Qingning? "To be honest, I don't particularly like that Qin Haoshuan either. I hope that you all can perform well and defeat all of them so that Qin Haoshuan can rush over here. If he's late, then it'll be our loss." Yi Qingning spoke casually, but it made Jiang Wudi and the other 2's expressions change. "Junior Sister Yi, even if the 3 of us lose, don't we still have you?" Yu Man smiled at Yi Qingning and said, "Who doesn't know that Junior Sister Yi and Junior Brother Qin are both peerless geniuses of the First Academy of Star Dragon Academy? With you here, they won't be able to defeat us." Yi Qingning glanced at Yu Man indifferently and said, "Since you know that Qin Haoshuan and I are both peerless geniuses, then Qin Haoshuan doesn't have to show up. Why should I fight on the stage? Do you think that I'm not as good as him?" Hearing Yi Qingning's question, Yu Man couldn't help but reveal a look of astonishment. Was this a competition? Yi Qingning didn't care about the change in Yu Man's expression and said indifferently, "If the 3 of you lose, then I won't fight on the stage. I'll directly enter the revival round. I'm not afraid of losing face, but I don't know if Qin Haoshuan is afraid of losing face." Hearing this, Jiang Wudi and the other 2 smiled bitterly. Qin Haoshuan wasn't easy to get along with, and Yi Qingning wasn't easy to get along with either. The 3 of them felt really uncomfortable being stuck in the middle. On the other side, when the Black Moon Combat Academy students saw this scene, they felt rather strange. Who would have thought that the relationship between Yi Qingning and Qin Haoshuan would be so bad? They even had to compete whether or not they would fight. If Qin Haoshuan really didn't show up and they defeated Jiang Wudi and the other 2, wouldn't that mean that they could win this competition? Of course, everyone was just thinking about it. After all, it wasn't easy to defeat Jiang Wudi and the other 2. But now that they saw the hope of winning, their mood wasn't as heavy as before. No one knew who secretly sent a message to Qin Haoshuan, but when it was less than 10 minutes before 9 o'clock, Qin Haoshuan's figure appeared in the preparation area. Qingning, it's my fault this time. I neglected your feelings. When Qin Haoshuan appeared, he immediately went to Yi Qingning and apologized to her. His attitude was rather gentle and sincere, which was completely different from his previous arrogant and conceited behavior. Of course, those who knew Qin Haoshuan well knew that there were millions of women in this world, and only Yi Qingning could make him so gentle. However, Yi Qingning didn't care about this at all. She faintly said, "You don't have to apologize to me. I just hope that my team members can respect the competition, especially you, as the captain." "I understand." Qin Haoshuan readily accepted her advice and smiled. He then sat down on an empty seat and began to meditate. Not far away, when the Black Moon Combat Academy's students saw Qin Haoshuan appear and treat Yi Qingning so gently, their expressions became rather strange. "I really didn't expect Qin Haoshuan to be so infatuated." Han Ting sighed and didn't say anything else. After all, the competition was about to begin, and it was better not to say anything that would damage the morale of the team. Lan Shuxi knew why Han Ting was sighing. She clenched the talisman pen in her hand and said to everyone, "Let's rest quietly. Wait a moment, I'll be the first to go up the stage." Lan Shuxin was neither the strongest nor the weakest among the group. She was the most stable one. Although the possibility of her winning was not high, it was not a problem for her to test the opponent's strength and pave the way for the next teammate to go up the stage. "Then I'll be the second to go up." Long Shao didn't hesitate to grab the second opportunity to go up the stage. She was confident that she could defeat any one of Jiang Wudi's team. If Lan Shuxin was the first to exhaust her, then she would be even more confident. "I'll be the third." Han Ting pursed his lips. If Long Shao was defeated, then he could take advantage of the situation and exhaust his second or third opponent to pave the way for the rest of the competition. "I'll be the fourth." LVZ also made her choice at this moment, and the remaining position of the finale was given to Bai Yu. No one had any objections to this result. If there was anyone among them who could create miracles like Qin Chuan, then it would definitely be Bai Yu. Chapter 271. Next, let us invite the representatives of Stardragon's First Academy and the Black Moon Combat Academy to the stage. As the charming host's voice fell, the audience in the stadium immediately cheered. The clash between the previous 6 Great Academies qualifier champions and this year's freshman competition had long made the audience somewhat impatient. As the audience cheered, Qin Haoshuan led the team of Stardragon's First Academy and slowly walked towards the stage. On the other side, Han Ting led the team of the Black Moon Combat Academy. The two teams were less than 10 meters apart, but the expressions on their faces were completely different. One side was relaxed, while the other had a serious expression. On the commentary platform, commentator Zhe Shi saw the expressions on the two teams' faces and couldn't help but sigh. Although the Black Moon Combat Academy has just defeated Stardragon's First Academy and obtained first place in the freshman competition, they don't have the confidence to win against Stardragon's First Academy in the official competition. From their expressions, we can see that they don't have much of a chance of winning. His partner, Lord, nodded in agreement. "You're right. In terms of overall strength, the First Academy of Stardragon is clearly stronger. If the Black Moon Combat Academy is unable to defeat the First Academy of Stardragon, perhaps Miracle Youth will be a substitute. Qinchuan's strength is indeed very strong and has received everyone's approval. However, Qinchuan's abilities are mostly in the field of battle arrays. When facing a Foundation Establishment middle stage opponent, Qinchuan still has the opportunity to inscribe battle arrays. However, if he faces a Foundation Establishment late stage or even a Foundation Establishment complete stage opponent, Qinchuan may not be able to easily deal with them. Therefore, even if Qinchuan comes out, I don't think the Black Moon Combat Academy will win. However, what we're saying now is just a guess. As for the specifics, we'll have to see the next match. The commentator's words struck a chord with the audience. Based on strength alone, the Black Moon Combat Academy was inferior to Stardragon's first academy in all aspects. A difference of one small realm could be made up for in other aspects, but a difference of two small realms was not so easy to make up for. Are you not going to fight? In the audience, Wang Bo looked at Qin Chuan, who was sitting beside him. He couldn't possibly wait until the Black Moon Combat Academy entered the revival round before making his move. Not making a move now is the right choice. Zhou Lin indifferently replied. If Qin Chuan makes a move now, he might not be able to help the Black Moon Combat Academy win this match. Qin Chuan, who was sitting in the middle, nodded and said, "That's right. Although I have confidence in my own strength, if I really have to face a Foundation Establishment late stage or even a Foundation Establishment expert without any preparation, I may not be able to win. The slightest mistake may cause me to lose." Qin Chuan wasn't an arrogant and boorish person. He was happy that he had won the first place in the freshman competition. However, he didn't think that he was invincible or arrogant because of this. He wouldn't relax until he defeated Qin Haoshuan. Hearing Qin Chuan's words, Wang Bo could only helplessly say, "But looking at the expressions of your classmates, none of them have any fighting spirit. I hope they won't lose too badly." The only ones who have no fighting spirit are Han Ting and Lan Shuxin. Zhou Lin hit the nail on the head and said indifferently, "Although the two of them are in the middle stage of the Foundation Establishment realm and are seniors, their actual combat strength isn't strong. Furthermore, they don't have the confidence to win. Instead, they've placed their hopes on the other three. It can be said that they don't have any responsibility." Qin Chuan helplessly sighed when he heard this. He could tell what Zhou Lin had said, but there was nothing he could do. Han Ting and Lan Shuxin were indeed not strong. Even if they wanted to carry the burden, they didn't have the ability to do so. The First Academy of Star Dragon will win. The First Academy of Star Dragon will win. Qin Haoshuan is invincible. Go Black Moon Combat Academy. The Divine Star Dragon Maiden shines brightly. Qin Haoshuan will win. The audience cheered crazily and waved the banners and support cards in their hands. Some people were so excited that they fainted. The scene was extremely lively. The first match of the official tournament was about to begin. Amidst the audience's enthusiastic cheers, the First Academy of Star Dragons Jiang Wudi took the stage as the first contestant. On the other side, the Black Moon Combat Academy sent out Lan Shuxin according to the original plan. Jiang Wudi stood on the stage. When he saw Lan Shuxin, he couldn't help but sneer and say, "I don't like to hit women." Lan Shuxin was expressionless and said lightly, "If you don't like to hit women, why don't you just admit defeat? If that's the case, then I'll choose to destroy the flower." Jiang Wudi chuckled and looked at Lan Shuxin with a malevolent gaze. It was obvious that he didn't have good intentions. The host stood between Jiang Wudi and Lan Shuxin. He faced the audience and said in a clear voice, "Now, I announce that the first match of the official tournament of the 6 Great Academies is between the First Academy of Star Dragon and the Black Moon Combat Academy. Jiang Wudi and Lan Shuxin. Match begin." As soon as the host finished speaking, the cheers in the arena rose to another level. At the same time, the referee officially blew the whistle. Toot toot toot. The moment the whistle sounded, Jiang Wudi's body suddenly lit up with resplendent runes. His aura surged, and he was like a ferocious tiger coming down from the mountains as he brazenly pounced toward Lan Shuxin. Facing Jiang Wudi's strong attack, Lan Shuxin didn't seem to have any intention of distancing herself or inscribing runic arrays. Her body also lit up with blue runes. Instead of retreating, she advanced and took the initiative to meet Jiang Wudi. Seeing Lan Shuxin take the initiative to meet him, Jiang Wudi was slightly stunned. Soon after, he smiled maliciously. He would let Lan Shuxin know how disastrous the price of underestimating him was. Jade wave splendor. Lan Shuxin let out a delicate cry, and a clear spring suddenly appeared between her palms. This clear spring flowed noisily and instantly turned the arena into a pool of water. At this moment, Jiang Wudi was less than 10 meters away from Lan Shuxin. When he saw the pool of water in front of Lan Shuxin, he didn't dodge and directly charged toward it. At this moment, Lan Shuxin put her palms together and shouted again. Water prison! As soon as Lan Shuxin shouted, the water in the pool suddenly became active and rushed toward Jiang Wudi. It turned into an airtight cage and trapped Jiang Wudi inside. Seeing that Jiang Wudi was trapped in the water prison, Lan Shuxin immediately retreated and opened up the distance between them. At the same time, she poured the majestic spiritual energy in her body into the pool of water and coldly said, "Water explosion." When the words "water explosion" came out of her mouth, the clear pool of water suddenly fluctuated violently. In an instant, it tumbled like a magma eruption and erupted with an extremely shocking energy fluctuation. It suddenly exploded, and the sound was like thunder as it turned into a curtain of rain that covered the sky. Chapter 272. On the commentary platform, when Zhe Shi and Lord saw Lan Shuxin's performance in the arena, they couldn't help but praise her. Brilliant! It's really brilliant! Instead of retreating, Lan Shuxin advanced and set up a series of traps. She made use of Jiang Wudi's underestimation of her and put him in a difficult situation. This water explosion might be too much for Jiang Wudi to handle. Jiang Wudi may have underestimated his opponent, but he has the capital to do so. Water's spiritual power is gentle and has limited destructive power. It might not be able to cause too much damage to Jiang Wudi. At that moment, the arena was shrouded in rain. The commentators couldn't see the situation in the arena clearly and could only make wild guesses. At this moment, the spectators were also very anxious. They wanted to see how the situation in the arena was like. Qin Chuan looked at the arena with a serious expression and asked Zhou Lin, who was beside him, "How much damage do you think Lan Shuxin's series of attacks can cause to Jiang Wudi?" Zhou Lin stared at the arena and said calmly, "It's useless." Whoosh! When the last wave of rain fell, everything in the arena appeared before everyone's eyes again. Jiang Wudi, who was in the center of the water explosion, was enveloped by the light of a black rune. Looking at his body, he was unscathed. On the other side, Lan Shuxin's rune array was more than half completed and was about to be completed. On the other side, Jiang Wudi was not doing nothing. "You won't have a chance." Jiang Wudi laughed sinisterly. "If I lose to you like this, I'll be letting down the slot that I got from the Qian family with great difficulty." Whoosh! A gray blade shot out from Jiang Wudi's hand and went straight for Lan Shuxin. It was so fast that Lan Shuxin couldn't react in time and was pierced in the chest. Poochie! With her chest pierced, Lan Shuxin spat out a mouthful of blood. Her face suddenly turned pale. However, she didn't stop the rune brush in her hand and finished the last stroke of the rune array. Heavenly Water Battle Array, activate! Lan Shuxin let out a furious roar. Suddenly, a huge talisman array appeared in the sky and gathered the spiritual qi from all directions. The spiritual qi turned into a vast ocean and poured down. The arena turned into a world of ocean at that moment. Everything was submerged in the ocean. At that moment, the ocean suddenly fluctuated violently. It suddenly compressed and then exploded. Lan Shuxin actually used the same trick again and unleashed the water explosion again. Furthermore, the momentum this time was even greater than before. Seeing this, Zhe Shi, who was on the commentary platform, could not help but suck in a breath of cold air. He exclaimed, "Lan Shuxin is using a method of mutual destruction to fight. Even the mountain control rune might not be able to withstand such a terrifying explosion." Shocking, shocking, unbelievable! Lan Shuxin is so decisive. The rune array, the rune array, the rune array, rune array, the rune array, the rune array, rune, the rune array, the rune array, the rune, the rune. See, that was definitely enough to turn half of the Red Dragon Stadium into ruins in an instant. I've underestimated her. Zhou Lin was also shocked by the scene in front of her. She didn't expect Lan Shuxin to use such a terrifying method of mutual destruction after her body was penetrated by the gray blade. Qinchuan's face was gloomy. He didn't say anything. Compared to the outcome of the match, he was more worried about Lan Shuxin's safety. Below the arena, Han Ting and the others looked anxiously at the monstrous waves in the arena. They said that they were only going to exhaust the opponent. Why did they have to risk their lives? On the other side, the few people from the First Academy of Star Dragon Academy had ugly expressions on their faces. They felt that Jiang Wudi was too conceited and had underestimated his opponent. If Jiang Wudi had gone all out from the start instead of toying with Lan Shuxin like a cat playing with a mouse, this wouldn't have happened. This Jiang Wudi shouldn't have been allowed to be the official representative. Yu Man said to Drizzt in dissatisfaction. I think Junior Qian is pretty good. I really don't understand why the Qian family wants Junior Qian to withdraw from the competition. Yu Man, be careful with your words. Drizzt frowned slightly and reminded Yu Man not to speak carelessly. After Drizzt's reminder, Yu Man also knew that she had said something wrong. She glanced at Qin Haoshuan and Yi Qingning discreetly. When she saw that there weren't any changes in their expressions, she quietly heaved a sigh of relief. When the name list was decided, Jiang Wudi wasn't the official representative. His name was only obtained after Qian Duobao withdrew from the competition. As for why Qian Duobao withdrew from the competition, it had to be because of the press conference. At the press conference, Qian Duobao's words were shocking. Not only did he confess his feelings to Qin Haoshuan, but he also secretly stepped on Yi Qingning. It could be said that he had caused a huge commotion. In order to quell the commotion, the Qian family took the initiative to withdraw Qian Duobao from the competition and pushed Jiang Wudi up. However, who would have thought that Jiang Wudi was a brute who was bold but not astute? He had actually been schemed against by Lan Shuxin, who was in the middle foundation establishment stage. When the explosion stopped, the referee, who was in the late golden core stage, immediately rushed into the arena. In an instant, he brought out two badly mutilated figures from the arena and quickly handed them over to the medical staff, who had been standing by the side. He then announced to the crowd, the first match between the First Academy of Star Dragon Academy and the Black Moon Combat Academy is a draw because both contestants are seriously injured and unconscious. A draw. When they heard the referee's announcement, even though they were already mentally prepared, they were still extremely shocked. Who would have thought that Jiang Wudi, who was in the late foundation establishment stage, would actually end up in a draw against Lan Shuxin, who was only in the middle foundation establishment stage. Before the start of the competition, who would have thought that a girl like Lan Shuxin would have such courage? She actually used the method of mutual destruction to eliminate Jiang Wudi, turning a match that had a high probability of losing into a draw. I have to say, the people from the Black Moon Combat Academy always show unexpected side. To be honest, I've become a fan of theirs. Me too. However, I still hope that the First Academy of Star Dragon Academy can quickly adjust their condition and seriously prepare for the next match. When they heard the commentator's words, the audience in the spectators' seats immediately erupted with discontent towards the First Academy of Star Dragon Academy. In their opinion, Jiang Wudi was definitely going to win against Lan Shuxin. It was because Jiang Wudi had underestimated his opponent that this match, which was supposed to be a sure win, ended in a draw. Faced with the curses and scoldings from the spectators' seats, everyone from the First Academy of Star Dragon Academy had ugly expressions on their faces. Qin Haoshuan coldly looked forward and said in a deep voice, "I'll take the next match." Chapter 273. Yuman and Drizzt were both surprised when they heard that Qin Haoshuan was going to step onto the stage. "Captain, let me do it." Drizzt looked at Qin Haoshuan and said, "With my strength at the perfect foundation stage, as long as I don't make the same mistake as Jiang Wudi, they won't be able to defeat me. No, I want to make sure that I can win the next match. I won't allow any mistakes." From Qin Haoshuan's point of view, he had to step onto the stage to ensure that he could win the next match. Moreover, he wanted to clear the name of the First Academy of Star Dragon and shut up all those rude people. When Drizzt saw Qin Haoshuan's determined attitude, he couldn't say anything else. He could only look at Yi Qingning helplessly. At this time, only Yi Qingning could persuade Qin Haoshuan. However, Yi Qingning didn't have this intention, because from her point of view, it was the same no matter who stepped onto the stage. When Qin Haoshuan slowly stepped onto the stage, the noisy crowd suddenly quieted down. Everyone looked at Qin Haoshuan in surprise. As the finale, was he going to step onto the stage now? The host was also at a loss. She looked at Qin Haoshuan and asked carefully, "Qin Haoshuan, are you going to step onto the stage as the second contestant of the First Academy of Star Dragon?" "Yes." Qin Haoshuan answered the host's question indifferently, but it caused a huge uproar in the crowd. No one had expected that Qin Haoshuan would step onto the stage early after his defeat in the first match. This made many of the audience who had high expectations for Qin Haoshuan couldn't help but cheer. "Qin Haoshuan, you will win for sure. Qin Haoshuan, you will win for sure. Qin Haoshuan, you will win for sure." At first, only a small number of people were shouting. Gradually, more and more people were shouting. Then, the entire stadium was filled with this unified shout. Almost half of the audience was shouting for Qin Haoshuan. It was shocking. This scene is simply too shocking. It has been a long time since I've seen such a popular contestant like Qin Haoshuan. Commentator Zaishi sighed and said, "With the talent and strength that Qin Haoshuan has displayed, in addition to his background and handsome appearance, it can be said that he is almost perfect. Only such a contestant can have such an honor." That's right. In all fairness, if there's a young person whose prestige can compare to Qin Haoshuan, then it's probably only our divine Star Dragon Maiden. When Qin Chuan heard the two commentators praising Qin Haoshuan from the spectator stands, he could not help but twitch his mouth. "Isn't it a little too much to praise this fellow like that?" When Zhou Lin heard this, she pursed her lips and said, "I am not bragging. Qin Haoshuan is indeed very strong. I tested him before and nearly lost." Qin Chuan looked at Zhou Lin in surprise and asked, "How did you test him? Why haven't I heard anything about this?" "Night attack." Zhou Lin replied indifferently. The corner of Qin Chuan's mouth fiercely twitched. She actually dared to do something like a night attack. This was too unscrupulous. Just when Qin Chuan was about to say something, the second representative of the Black Moon Combat Academy stepped onto the stage. This time, the contestant was also the captain of the Black Moon Combat Academy, Han Ting. According to the original plan, Long Xiao should have been the contestant for this match. However, because Qin Haoshuan had stepped onto the stage earlier, the Black Moon Combat Academy had made a last-minute change. Han Ting would first test Qin Haoshuan before the other contestants stepped onto the stage. Han Ting did not have any objections to this arrangement because he was very clear that he was the weakest among the remaining four contestants. Letting him test Qin Haoshuan's strength was the correct decision. When Han Ting stepped onto the stage, the host looked at Qin Haoshuan and then at Han Ting. He said in a clear voice, "The next match should be the highlight of today's competition. Since Qin Haoshuan and Han Ting are the captains of their respective teams, I look forward to their performances. Now, I announce the second match between the First Academy and the Black Moon Combat Academy. Qin Haoshuan vs. Han Ting. Begin. After the host left the stage, only Qin Haoshuan and Han Ting were left on the stage. Qin Haoshuan looked at Han Ting indifferently and asked, "As the captain, how is your strength compared to Qin Chuan's?" Han Ting pursed his lips and said, "Not as good." Qin Haoshuan nodded and said, "Since you're so honest, I'll let you lose quickly." Han Ting took a deep look at Qin Haoshuan, and his expression gradually became solemn. If he wanted to test Qin Haoshuan's strength, then he absolutely couldn't be killed in an instant. He had to be prepared to prolong the battle as much as possible. Do. When the referee's whistle sounded, Han Ting immediately wanted to pull away from Qin Haoshuan. However, at this moment, a terrifying wind pressure acted on Han Ting's body. It actually pushed Han Ting out of the arena with lightning speed. Bang! Han Ting's body slammed into the ground outside the arena and slid backward without slowing down, leaving a deep mark on the ground that was at least 60 to 70 meters long. When his body stopped, Han Ting's facial features were twisted together due to extreme pain. He let out a slight hiss and his breathing was weak. Looking at Han Ting's badly mutilated body, the originally noisy scene became so quiet that even a pin drop could be heard. What had happened just now? The whistle had clearly just sounded, so how did Han Ting appear outside the stage with such serious injuries? Could this be the Qin family's secret technique, the charging wind cannon? The commentator, Zhe Shi, widened his eyes in shock. He looked at the replay on the crystal screen and said in surprise, "This must be the charging wind cannon. Only the charging wind cannon can explode with such a powerful wind pressure in an instant and defeat the opponent in the blink of an eye. But the charging wind cannon can only be released with a charging wind rune." However, no rune lit up on Qin Haoshuan's body. Moreover, the charging wind rune is an earth rune. How did Qin Haoshuan release the charging wind cannon in an instant? Even a golden core stage expert might not be able to do this. Charging wind cannon. Earth rune. Hearing the commentator's words, the quiet audience gasped. Everyone knew about the Qin clan's shockwave cannon. However, most of them had only heard of the shockwave cannon's prowess. This was the first time they had seen the might of the shockwave cannon. Looking at Han Ting, who was rescued by the medical staff, everyone couldn't help but suspect that if the rules of the competition allowed killing, perhaps Han Ting would be a dead man now. Who would have thought that the collision between the captains would actually end the moment the whistle sounded? You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.